Okay, we need to start the meeting. Could you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Where can we go?
Arlene, could you please do the roll call?
Sure. Francis Bach,
Here.
Bill Taylor,
Here.
Rick Drew,
Rick. Here.
Susan Porple,
Here.
You can just
John Baldred,
Here.
Brian Byrne,
Here.
Susan McGraw-Keever,
Here.
Del Cullum,
Present.
Jim Grimes.
Absent. Okay, I'll start with the public comment portion. Bruce Horwath.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Hey, Bruce. Hey, Bruce.
I'm going to try to cover a couple things all dealing with Georgia. The first has to do with a application for Phragmites control at 41 and 47 Cold Hollow Farm Road. I just have a couple slides to orient you to the property. So we're talking about midway down Cove Hollow Farm Road. This is what it looks like in an aerial with 41 adjoins a property that's already involved in Phragmites control, 33 Cove Hollow Farm Road. But we're talking now about these two properties, two adjoining properties owned by the same person. And you can see the Phragmites really clearly in this aerial. And there's also on this piece, this part of the property as compared to some other areas north and south of there, there's a fairly thick hedgerow. It's I'm not sure how long it's been there, but since the field has been abandoned, the whole field is undeveloped, obviously, but since it's been abandoned from whatever former dairy and other farming was taking place there, there's been a hedgerow that's been developing over the last, I guess, couple decades. Consists mostly of honeysuckle and bittersweet and, mostly not mostly, completely non-native invasive stuff. So the project calls for controlling Phragmites through the same process that they're using elsewhere, which is using hand-operated equipment, hand weed whackers and whatnot, shears, and to cut it down on a regular basis, 3 to 4 times a year, and have the project run for several years. And I have a couple photos that show some of the differences between this property and the property to the north. This is taken from the property that's been involved with the Phragmites control for several years. And it looks down at the northern of the two properties that are applying today. That's 41 Cove Hollow Farm Road. So in this one, you can see that the Phragmites is, there's still some Phragmites on the shoreline. In fact, when the pond is let, some of the Phragmites, some of the area that's showing as bare, as just water, will in fact have some Phragmites still present. But you can see that the cutting method, which has a lot of problems in terms of being effective. I mean, it's not an easy plant to kill just by cutting. But to some extent, for a variety of reasons, we're restricted to that. But you can see that when it's cut and it's underwater, it doesn't literally drown, but the effect of the water in terms of limiting the oxygen flow that occurs from neighboring plants, adjoining attached plants, is really limited. And so you get an enormous amount of kill and damage to the Phragmites versus when it's not covered with water. Which is going to bring me to a question which I think actually one other gentleman wants to ask about later, which has to do with the scheduling of the opening of the pond, which could become a critical part of the Phragmites control. If we knew what that scheduling was, they could work around that and really go out into the area where the Phragmites is underwater when the pond is low, do that cutting so that when that pond comes up, fills up again, it's the Phragmites that were cut are underwater longer and therefore more effectively control them. So we can talk about that in a minute. Anyway, that's it really for the application for the 41 to 47 Cove Hollow Farm Road, and I'm really here just to answer questions if there are any.
Bruce, are you ready to go with that project?
Yeah. Well, we do not have all the permits at this point, but.
I was there with Bruce, and it was really dramatic, the difference between the properties that are being cut and the properties that are not being cut. And it's just a real example of a very successful project. So I'm really in favor of seeing this work continued, because this will extend that whole section of the pond to a really nicely managed area regarding the Phragmites. So I think it's a great job you're doing there, Bruce.
Yeah, there's really no issue of buffers here because of the fact that the whole area is undeveloped. There is in fact a scenic easement over about 50 to 75 feet or so of both of these properties running parallel to the pond, as well as the property to the north, and probably some to the south. I don't know about those.
So there's gonna be a buffer between,
Well, there already is an existing buffer. Most of that includes that hedgerow, which we are going to be taking down, but replacing with bayberry.
How
You
wide
got-
will that be?
Excuse me?
How wide?
The hedgerow wasn't really put in as a hedgerow, it just grew in. So in some places, it comes all the way down almost to the shore, very close, and comes out away from the pond, let's say 20, 30 feet. In other places, it's out a little bit further. But it's all going to be within the scenic easement, it's all going to be replaced.
so you're gonna plant native plants?
Yeah, put bayberry in there.
Bruce, is that neighboring property that, where the Phragmites is now?
Right.
Is the depth of water pretty much the same as it is where the Phragmites has been cut? Or does the bottom sort of shoal out there?
I think it has done that. I was wondering about that when I saw it, and then when I saw it on the photo in particular. I think there is some scouring that takes place. This whole area, I should also explain, is, the shoreline obviously differs all throughout Georgia. And in this area, you have undeveloped field, or you have field in any event, that then takes sort of an abrupt transition of about 3 to 4 to 5 feet down to the pond. So that's what's occurring here, which probably would add to a shoaling effect, I would think, as compared to more gradual transition on the shore. So I don't know, in answer to your question, Your Honor, to elaborate on that, you can see there's sort of a sandy area here, which doesn't seem to be here. And I don't know whether or not that's something that's been developed by the Phragmites, because of the fact that it's reduced the water velocity through there, and it's just dropping the sediment material, and is something that wasn't there prior to the Phragmites, or whether or not it's something that was throughout and disappeared where the Phragmites was removed. I don't know which way that worked.
So the Phragmites that will be cut won't be in as deep water as the Phragmites that has been cut.
It won't be initially, but, it may be that after a year or two, it will be in that deep water. I don't know. We do know that the Phragmites will definitely build up the land base, the sand base underneath it.
Bruce, how many times a year are you proposing the cutting?
Well, the first cut can be done anytime, and then after that, it should be it really should be as an as-needed basis, which could even mean a dozen times during the season, but the reality is that we're talking about 3 to 4 times, that we can get all the regulatory agencies on board and afford to do it. So 3 to 4 times a year after that, and all during the growing season, from June to October.
John, does that address your concern? You concern it's going to grow more rapidly because it's not submerged?
No, that wasn't a concern, I was just curious what the bottom type, is like there.
Brian, have you been down
I don't think I visited this one. I've been on several with Bruce, and
Jim has been
Jim's
down
been
to
down.
his
Yeah.
property. He's very familiar with these areas as well, and he's supportive of this
Yeah.
area of
Right.
the pond being managed.
So what do you need from us right now?
I do have the application, so I'm looking for the, a decision on, a vote on the application.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve Bruce's application.
okay,
I'll
good.
second it.
Yeah,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The other thing, Francis, I think while I'm here, we should just quickly just update on the excavation, if that's good. Do that now?
Sure.
So just as a sort of recap, this is for the excavation that's being proposed for the northeast bottleneck that's within Georgica Cove.
Could you bring that map up?
Yeah.
Maybe you could show the folks that can see it.
So this is Georgica Cove, and you can see that it's constricted, even shows up on this map, as being very constricted, about 150 to 200 feet south of where the north end of Georgica Cove. In other words, if you drive down to the end of Cove Hollow Road, and you're looking out, you can see when the water level is low, before the Phragmites was cut, it almost looked like a pond with water seeping into the rest of the cove, which then goes into the rest of the pond. So it's this area that we're talking about. We now have permits from the town, state, and the Army Corps to do the excavation, which will open up a channel there's already an existing channel. It'll clear out that channel and extend it a little bit. It runs 170 feet long. It's been through negotiations with DEC. It's been finalized now as we're opening it up to 30 feet wide. It's, I guess, anywhere from about 1 to 3 feet, depending on the angle and the area that'll be opened up to. So in terms of as I said, we do have those permits, but the Army Corps permit just came to the trustees this week, and so you'll need to review that, sign copies, send it back to them, assuming there's no objections, send it back to them, and then they will send a final permit along. The other thing has to do with the sediment sampling, because we know the material, at least we suspect that the material that comes out may be contaminated, in quotes, meaning it'll be regulated by the state. It'll have something in there that will require that it can't just be disposed of however we see fit. So at that point, it's considered regulated. So we need to test it to see whether or not that's the case. I'm assuming it is, in which case, once we have the analytics from that, which the lab will prepare, we then send that out to the various landfills that are willing to accept regulated material, the cheapest of which, none of them are cheap, but the cheapest of which would be Brookhaven landfill, because it's the closest one.
How much material are we talking about in terms of yards?
Yeah, it's probably about 275 to 300 cubic yards. So it's not a lot of material.
Right. Okay. That's good.
Oh, did you have a question?
Well, Bruce, what is your time frame, and what are some of the main components of getting this started, this fall, late summer?
Right. So at this stage, we weren't sure, obviously, until we had the Army Corps permit. Now that we have all 3 permits, at this stage, assuming that we get the sampling analysis back soon, which we should really in about 10 days. It'll be sampled tomorrow. The analytics will be done probably within a week. So we should at that point know what we're dealing with. And then it's a question of finding a landfill that's willing to accept it. Assuming we get that all in place, then we're good to go whenever. And what we tentatively talked about in our work session was getting in when the pond level does have to be fairly high for the way it's being proposed to have this work done. So we're talking about trying to get in there in mid-September.
Prior to the traditional letting, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And what company is going to be doing that work? Removing it?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Solitude Lake Management, which is a company based up in Connecticut. But I mean, it's still, we didn't have to specify, so we didn't, you know. There's not a lot of, the way that's being proposed to be done is that there's going to be a very small excavator that's going to be working in terms of breaking, probably the hydro rake, in fact, which is why the pond level needs to be high. It'll be breaking up the material, but with the hydro rake, you still end up with clumps that the Phragmites roots and sediment that the hydro rake can't successfully dig out as compared to a land-based excavator. In those cases, they'll be coming in just with handheld suction pump. You know, breaking that, sucking that out, and then the hydro rake will break up more, will suck that out, et cetera. It all gets pumped up to the parking lot, and the village has agreed to allow us to use the parking area down there to put out these things called geotubes. The material goes into the geotube, dewaters on site, and then the geotube's trucked away.
I have a question. I'm just curious. The sediment that's brought out of the pond, is there no other use for it other than to go to a landfill? When you say it's contaminated, there's no way of purifying it and giving it back into another form so that we didn't have to send it to the pond?
Almost always, if it comes out, if it's not sand,
Right.
then it almost always it has to be carted away. It's not always the case, but we've done so much to the environment in so many places that you almost always end up with either petrochemicals that are from road runoff, because there's a lot of road runoff into that area. You end up with old things that are no longer used. For example, there's no DDT in the samples that we did several years ago, but they were all the derivatives of DDT also are regulated. And those basically don't break down. You know, they bind to the water, so it's not as if it's floating around in the water, but it binds to the clay material, particles in that sediment. So no, if the short answer is that there's no way to use the material locally, although there is a provision in the state law that allows you to do it if it's, usable material.
And when it's carted away, what do they do with that contaminated material?
Out of sight, out of mind. No, I don't know. Without being facetious about it, it's like a lot of very serious stuff. When it's trucked away from here, who knows what happens to it? But it's, it is capped. It's, they know what they're getting. They treat it either as something which is going to be completely capped and covered and not, there'll be no exposure to it. That's the most common way, certainly locally, meaning within Long Island, but I don't really know for sure what's done with it. This is not stuff that I would worry about personally using. I mean, and there are a lot of contaminants, obviously, all of us would want to stay away from. This is stuff that just makes it over the threshold to the point that you can't do what you want with it. It has to be, regulated in that sense. It's not stuff that you would necessarily worry about touching or, working with.
The Brookhaven landfill, they deal with this stuff regularly, right? They have
Well, they deal with a lot worse than this, yeah.
yeah.
So, from my understanding, you originally requested excavating a certain width of the bottleneck, and then I believe the DEC came back and requested a narrower excavation.
yes.
Where did you end up with that?
30 feet.
30 feet?
Originally, it was
started at
40,
40,
right? Yeah.
And even though our engineer had explained the rationale for the 40, we just thought 30 feet, we didn't want to fight it any longer. We thought 30 foot will work, at least to get this thing going.
Thank you.
So Bruce, as we have a lot of projects forthcoming on the pond, I think it might be appropriate for us to schedule a ponds committee meeting with you to go over some of the details
Sure.
and report back to the board.
That sounds good.
Yep.
So we'll
Do you want to reach out, or do you have?
Yeah, I'll reach out, because Jim's coming back soon, and I think upon his return, we should get together.
Okay, that
I'll
sounds
see if I
good.
can check with
Yeah.
him and get a couple dates together.
And I want to thank you, Bruce, for all the time that you spend with us in educating us. I know when I go with you, I feel like I'm on a field trip. Except when Jim Grimes is there, I don't get to say anything. But seriously, thank you for all your help. Yeah,
No, thank you. And thank
Learning
you
a
for keeping
lot.
Jim quiet enough so I can say something.
that's right.
So the only other thing, just as a reminder, we do need to get, in terms of sediment samples, which
Letters
is due
coming.
tomorrow. Yeah, or as long as we know one way or the other if we will be getting it. This has to
Yes,
do
we
with a
will.
particular thing that changes the sediment sampling regime.
We need a letter from the fire department explaining the lack of fires. in
So if
that
you can give me a call, Francis, let me
Yep.
know if you think we'll have that.
Mhm.
Good, thanks. So if anybody's interested, we will be down at the pond, at that area, probably at around 12 o'clock tomorrow to do the sampling. It's not something you're going to want to write home about, but it'll be taking place then. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. All right, Cy Kinsella?
Come with us.
I'm going to go tomorrow. Where should I park? Thank you.
Yeah.
He's over Sam?
Trustees, Cy
Hello.
Kinsella, my name. I'm going to be very brief. First, I'd like to say I am not here to talk about you-know-what.
That's what we already have.
I think it's been talked to death.
You have one, right? No.
I just wanted to talk to you a bit about where we are with Wainscott Pond. It's the little brother to Georgica Pond.
This was my next question, so I'm glad that you're here.
Okay. Coming up this Sunday, we're having the Wainscott Pond Project annual event, information centre. I've been speaking with Dr. Gobler quite regularly in the last couple of weeks. He's finalising the report at the moment with the loading models, etc. It is not ready yet. As soon as it is ready, he will come here and talk to you about that. I won't obviously do that because he knows a lot more about that than I do. What you do have in front of you, just the latest blue-green algae readings from the pond. Wainscott Pond is different to Georgica Pond in many respects. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot shallower, it's freshwater, it's not open to the ocean, etc. People don't swim in it. Because it's shallower, it has a faster reaction time to temperatures and things like that, and you see greater extremes in Wainscott Pond than you do in Georgica Pond. And you can see that last year that extreme was quite high. I think actually that reading was one of the highest ever on record in eastern Long Island. This year it has been half that limit, which is good, but still it's very early days, and the limit is still significantly higher than the DEC recreational limit, which you can see at the very bottom is 20 micrograms per litre. We're nearly at the same peak as we were in 2016, which was way too high. One of the issues that we've been working with, and again, I don't want to speak in too much detail about this because it's still very early days. We've been concerned that the nitrogen reduction program, the replacing of wastewater systems, has not been taken up as readily as expected, which is disappointing. Not surprising, but disappointing. So we're putting together a team of people which include obviously Dr. Gobler and the Gobler Laboratory, Stony Brook, the Centre of Clean Water Technology, and we're working closely with Suffolk County, who have given it their support, to look at replacing all the wastewater systems at once as one project, and working with the community to make that happen, rather than relying on everyone individually to do it under their own steam and under their own initiative, and have to go through the same rigmarole and investigation, etc. If we do it all as a community and then just share the information and do it at once, it hopefully will be far more effective. And that's what we're doing, and I've spoken many times with Steve Ballone, Suffolk County Executive, and he thinks it's a terrific idea, and we're moving forward on that basis. So hopefully in the coming weeks we will have some exciting news and some further details on that front. Susan, you had a question.
Oh, no. No. This was actually another topic.
This is the
I thought I would
question.
hold on and speak to Bruce about it, but now you've come in and you're giving this presentation, so I don't have a question, I'm listening.
Okay, well, unfortunately, it's not much of a presentation at this point. It's just to inform you that we still are working on things, and that the report will be completed by this Sunday and presented to the community. And Dr. Gobler, as soon as he gets the chance, will come and talk with the trustees about it and ask your advice, of course, before we do anything, and share the results, of course.
So is this report from 2017 or 18?
Both.
Both.
It's got 27.
The report that he's presenting?
Oh, 20. It's the information up to date.
Up to
so
date,
it includes half of 2018.
So does he have any explanation for this huge spike in 2017?
You'd have to, I have
You
my
haven't
feelings
had that
about it, but I think it's safer to ask.
Okay.
Dr. Gobler on that front.
Okay.
I'd probably trip over myself. And
I do have a quick question, because it's Georgica Pond as well, and this, I guess Bruce could answer when I see him next, as to whether or not the same contaminants have been found in Georgica Pond that were found in the wells in Wainscott.
which contaminant is that?
It's the one that they found at the airport, or they keep finding new contaminants in the water. Do you know if this?
Which ones are they?
I
There are many
cannot
contaminants.
remember the name of the one that's
know.
found in the foam at the airport.
Okay. Yeah, PFOA, PFOS.
Right, there are several different
fluorinated
contaminants, and
compound
they continue to
contamination.
find different contaminants in the
There are
wells.
classes, there are actually about 40 in the entire
So I'm wondering,
class.
has
There are
any of
6
this
major
come
ones.
from runoff into Georgica Pond through the plumes?
I think they're, you're speaking cross purposes. They're two very different things. One is a man-made chemical, perfluorinated compound contamination, which is not found in nature. If it is in nature, man put it
No,
there.
I know, but I'm saying
It
has
doesn't
it run
really
off into
plume
the
as
pond?
such, because the bonding nature of the chemicals actually are tight. That's the whole idea of fluorinated compounds. They have tight bonding. So it's not organic plume. Whether it has made it to the ponds or not, we're not specifically testing the pond water.
Okay. That's my question.
At the time, you know, it's a very, it's probably the greatest issue I'm dealing with at the moment. I'm almost finalising some research at the moment that I've been doing on that front. Again, on Sunday I'll be speaking more about it. I'm more concerned about the people drinking the water rather than a woodchuck drinking the water.
Well, are people in the pond, dogs?
Well, no one swims
Just
in the
wondering
pond,
if
and
that has been discovered in the pond, but
I-
nothing yet.
I'm sure it's there. We haven't really tested, and to what level I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm sure it would be there to some degree, but I think that's there are far greater issues that we should be concerned about
Drinking
with
water,
regards
of
to
course,
the
paramount.
fluorinated compound contamination. And there are other contaminations as well. You've got hexavalent chromium, which is a big issue in Wainscott as well. So it's not just PFCs.
No, I know. All right. Thank you.
Well, we're obviously committed to the health of Wainscott Pond, as we are Georgica Pond, and we pay for Dr. Goldberg to test and come and see us and keep us up to date. And I want to thank you for all your work. And I know I speak for all my trustees when I say that any way that we can help, if we can, we will.
I'm very grateful for that. And
Absolutely.
I'm grateful for the trustees, because you guys really kicked it all off. So we're just helping
Yeah, let us.
program and go along. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Si.
Patrice Dalton?
Hello. Thank you. I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to talk, can you hear me okay?
Sure.
To just talk a little bit about some of the recent experiences Block Island has had with the Deepwater Wind construction, and with what we might learn from that about project management, milestones, and project execution. Especially as we contemplate entering into an agreement with Deepwater Wind about our own cable coming ashore. So the first thing that I was struck by was some presentation material that Deepwater Wind has circulated about why their project timeline is laid out the way it is. And in that material, it mentions that this project timeline will allow LIPA to defer construction of a fossil-fired generation plant in East Hampton. And they use the word in East Hampton. I'm not aware of when that would actually kick in, or if that is what would happen if any of their project timelines should slip. So I think that's important when we think about why they've come up with this project plan, because there's two ways to project plan. One is to lay out the things that you need to do and how long they're going to take, and the other is to say you have a mission critical date that you have to hit. And I think that's sort of, they're saying they have a mission critical date. So they laid out what the milestones are, and in 2017, it's their PPA, their final purchase power agreement, which they have. The 2018 permit applications submitted. 2020 final permits received, and 2021 construction will start, and then 2022 commercial operations. So somewhere in there around when the final permits are received, somewhat before there, is going to be a project plan with lots of detail and lots of dates and, and who's responsible to execute what. Okay, so that's sort of the overview. The Block Island experience has been that they did have a plan. When National Grid was laying their cable for them and bringing it up to the shore, they ran into an unknown, unexpected situation, which is not, it's to be expected in a project like this. It's not a repeatable thing that we've done a dozen times. This is fairly new. So they ran into a situation where the undersea cable was to be buried in an area at a range of 4 to 6 feet deep, and they couldn't do it. The material they encountered in the seabed was unplowable. And then, in their words, on a tight deadline, they nonetheless completed the project at a 2 to 3 foot depth. They would then retroactively ensure that the cable is in compliance, and that Deepwater Wind, Ms. Wims, the spokesperson, said, "We do not anticipate significant impacts." That was on January 18th of 2017 in the Providence Business News. Then flash forward to today, August 9th. Exposed high voltage line at Block Island Beach has residents unnerved, WPRI reported. Nancy Krause is the reporter. C2 shore cable can be seen 25 feet from Crescent Beach, which is a public beach. The cable is now visible in low tide, and the cable carries 34,500 volts. So they have put some buoys around it to say this is a no anchor zone, and there are photographs of people floating over this cable. Apparently what has happened is there was sediment was lost in the area. So National Grid is now going to send a diver now, at some point, to do a visual inspection. And they are going to reach out to international contacts who may have experience with exposed cable. National Grid is confident cable does not pose a danger. Deepwater Wind referred all questions to National Grid. So, we see here a situation where had they stopped at the point when they encountered this change in the feasible depth and done a little bit of robust planning around a way to get what they were going to do, they may have avoided this situation, which may be safe, it may not be safe. If it is safe, it also calls into question why they're burying the cable at all, because they can lay it right on top of the sand. So it's just, it's a little bit of a mess, I'd say, right now. So the reason I'm bringing that to your attention is not to play, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I've worked on large-scale technology projects in the pharmaceutical industry, and this happens. This is just the way it is. But in project management, you have 3 variables that you can manipulate. You have your timeline.
Interject for a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The town board typically gives folks 3 minutes, and we like to allow people a little more time, but we like to also give everybody an opportunity to speak. So just keep that in mind, and you folks as well when you come up.
Have I exceeded 3 minutes?
Oh, yes, you have, but that's okay.
Okay, I'm almost
Yeah,
finished.
That's fine.
The reason I'm bringing this to your attention,
No,
if I may,
we're not timing you. Please continue, but as I said, keep in mind, other people want to speak.
Okay.
And you said you were wrapping it up. Super, thank you.
yes, I am.
Yeah,
So what I was saying was there are 3 things: timelines, cost, and quality. When you hit an unexpected thing like this, who approves deviation from the approved plan? That's the question. So when I'm thinking about the agreement that we're about to enter in with Deepwater Wind, these are the kinds of things that we might consider getting into the agreement about what happens if something like this happens and a timeline is put at risk. And eventually, the risk could be either that we don't have power when we need it, or that there is a loss of investor confidence, or that there are cost overages. So there's sort of all those things that they are trying to avoid, and they're quite reasonable. But the benefit would be project quality. I don't think that the people of East Hampton would really appreciate having this situation like this repeated in our community, if we can avoid it, and if we can get language into our agreement with Deepwater Wind that considers things like this. Also, a service level agreement for issue resolution. Should there be issues, how long would it take? So that is really all I wanted to say. And I think it's just, it is relevant to where we are today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you, Patrice.
Rod Richardson?
Someone give me a hand with pulling up the presentation? I'm not quite sure how to run it.
Chris, could you close out Bruce's presentation, the X in the upper right, please? And I think you're on deck right behind it, Rod.
Tell your wife I said hi.
That was it, that tile was it. Trustees folder.
Trustees folder. Which one would you like to do, PDF or the PowerPoint? Okay, you choose, whatever you think will work best. And where's the clicker? How do you use this? Where's the?
Say run slideshow, will give you the proper view. Oh, that's a PDF?
Yeah.
You're not gonna get a slideshow view, that's gonna be your view.
So go back to the PowerPoint?
You'll get a better view. Again, close this one out and relaunch.
We're getting a lesson in is it aviation?
No.
No, that's flying around.
PowerPoint, AV.
PowerPoint.
What is it called?
AV.
AV.
Club,
AV.
Audio Visual Club.
That was good, though, aviation. Flying around the topic.
That comes later. AV.
So I just click on them? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, how do I get rid of this?
Close.
All right. Good evening.
Hey, Rod.
My name is Rod Richardson, and thank you for allowing me to speak here. I really appreciate the opportunity to tell you about what's going on. As you know, I've appeared here in front of you before, and you've all listened to me very respectfully with respect to issues on Hicks Island and public access that was denied there and illegal signage. And I don't know how the trustees do everything, but whatever you did works, and the situation in Hicks is fixed, and there's new signage up, but it allows public access. So I think you're to be congratulated on that for however you did, whatever you did. And a lot of you folks have been particularly supportive and talked to me about, these public access issues. Jim's not here. A lot of others you've talked to me, Rick and also Dell. Dell and I share a particular bond as 9/11 Ground Zero volunteers, and I think we have a similar frame of mind about you just go in there and you fix a problem and you make sure that it gets done. And I like that about the trustees, that you get things done, and I hope you'll get things done about this problem that I'm about to tell you about. I want to talk to you about the threats to public ownership that are going on in Gardner's Bay right now. There are fairy tales that are being told about the historical facts that just aren't true. And everything, by the way, my lawyers have let me know that I'm taking a risk by coming here and talking to you at all. So I have to tell you that everything I'm going to say and have ever said and ever will say about Cartwright Island is my opinion, to insulate me somewhat. But this is, I also want to let you know that there are folks who are going to be coming here and talking, but there are other folks who couldn't come because they couldn't make it, and there are folks who couldn't come because they were worried about speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to know that this is a difficult situation for a lot of people, and not everybody can address it. So on June 30th, this is when the incident took place. The start of the incident, and I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but the start of the incident was that Goulet security forces were intimidating a group of families on Cartwright Island as I was paddling by. They were families with children, and they were threatening to call Marine Patrol, have these folks arrested merely for anchoring and playing on the foreshore, okay? Claiming that the Goulets own Cartwright Island because the Gardners have a royal grant that gives them ownership of all of Gardner's Island into the water as far as an ox can walk without getting its belly wet. Okay, this is the fairy tale that they're using to scare people off with threats of calling Marine Patrol. So let me tell you, you can ask me about the specifics of the incident if you wish to. It's been written up in the paper, so I don't want to waste my time going into that. But why am I here? For hundreds of years, we've had public access to Cartwright Island. But since 2005, these intimidation and fairy tales by security forces has taken place. It used to be, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, they would say it was a horse, okay? But now it's an ox. So I've repeatedly asked when I've run into these folks, show me your deed, show me the language that proves this. They never show me the deed. They can afford, going back to here, these two boats, employees on both boats, they've got a couple $100,000 worth of equipment there and investment in employees. They can't afford a piece of paper, to prove their claim, so that when people ask them to prove it, they can prove it, but they can't. So last year I witnessed, a tired lady paddleboarder who was stopped to rest on Cartwright being kicked off by security. And that's a safety risk. Somebody's tired, they need to rest on the foreshore. That's why public has the right to the foreshore. It's outrageous and it's not right. So it inspired me to research all the royal grants and everything I could find about Cartwright Island. And the conclusions are clear. If you look at the royal grants, if you look at everything, it proves that Cartwright is public. There's no ox, okay? We've been told about the dock. There's no ox, there's no horse. There's no ownership into the water. So on June 30th, it was not only my children, my own daughter was threatened, which is one of the reasons why I had to swing into action and say, hey, talk to me, not them. And so I tried to resolve this, by the way, privately with the Galays, but they have insisted on public arrest. So I'm not willingly coming and making this a public issue. They've made this public by putting my name in the paper and pulling me in front of the judge. I'm going to defend myself every way I can by, if necessary, appealing to you to be defenders of the public trust. So, in my view, Marine Patrol enforcement on this spit of land out in the middle of Gardner's Bay is a waste of public resources and is contrary to New York State enforcement procedures on shore access. If you look at the OGC guidance from New York State, it says if you're going to enforce, you first tell the parties to try to work it out with themselves. And it also says that signs on the foreshore, let me just show you how ridiculous this is. I didn't include it in the PowerPoint, but I'll show you now. Just so you understand, what we're talking about. The Gardner's Island is a long spit, a little bit less than a mile long, in the middle of Gardner's Bay, running from north to south. Cartwright, yes. Only on the extreme north and south end is it high enough to have a rack line. See, this is it. You can see in this photograph there are logs here, there's an oval shape. That's where all the birds are. The birds don't nest on the foreshore below the rack line because they would drown. Okay, folks, you can see that's the bird nesting area to the south. Most of the island is so low and thin and long that it's below the rack line. There is no rack line. That's regularly overwashed by the tides. The situation is so ridiculous out there that the signage that they have that says private land signs is standing in the middle of the water. Okay? It's in the middle of the water. Okay? They are claiming New York State bottom land is their own. That sign, by the way, claiming private land, is defined by the OGC guidance, which you can find on the website cartwrightislandpublicaccess.com, as a public nuisance that should be removed. It's a navigational hazard. Not only do they have that sign in the water, by the way, this is the middle of Cartwright Island. It is so low in the middle that at high tide it's underwater. This, the middle of the island, is where the incident took place. Okay? This is ridiculous. In the water, another sign. Another sign in the water. Another sign in the water.
Where did those signs come from, Rod?
I believe they were placed there by the Gardner's family. They say Gardner's Island Trust on them. I will have an image, a better image up on my website, but I'm sorry, I don't in this presentation. But these are at least half a dozen signs. There's the security boat. So I just want to show you how incredibly ridiculous this is. Number one. But let me go on. Moving right along. So what can the trustees do, and what should you do now? Let me just say, you all know this, but you're the oldest functioning trustees of the public trust, not only in East Hampton, but probably in the country. Regardless of if you own the beach, regardless, you still defend the rights of East Hampton public beach access in East Hampton. And I don't believe you own Cartwright Island. I don't believe you own the foreshore of Gardner's Island. But you do represent the people of East Hampton. You are the trustees for the freeholders of East Hampton. And when their public access rights are being affected by people like this, you should care. And you should care because, your beaches could be claimed by people like this. And not only that, these guys are claiming these rights under a Donegan patent similar to your own, but without the language that you have that gives you the authority over beaches. Let me show you what I mean. I'll get to that. But the militarization of Gardner's Bay is outrageous behavior, okay? It's an insult and a threat to the freedom of the people of East Hampton. Marine patrol enforcement, it's contrary to public law, access law. It's a waste of taxpayer money, and it's a threat to the rights of the people you represent. The trustees should investigate the ownership claim, particularly with respect to the Donegan patent. They should defend public access to all East Hampton beaches. You have pledged to do so in a 2011 pledge. You should take up a resolution to end these abuses, and you should ask the DA and the court to dismiss these charges against me, against a citizen of East Hampton. Okay, so this is, I remind you probably know about this, but maybe not everybody does, but you did sign a pledge, and it's tiny down here, but you said to support all legal means necessary to ensure the traditional rights and heritage of all members of the public to continue to access and use the beaches, not just trustee beaches, but the beaches, for all purposes against threats and efforts to privatize them. This is the biggest effort to privatize beaches in East Hampton, because this is not just Cartwright Island. This is the entire Gardner's Island beaches. This is 16.5 miles of beaches. This is as if somebody were to privatize everything from East Hampton Main Beach to Ditch Plains. Okay, wrap your head around that. That's the amount of beach out there that is public foreshore that is being under this cloud of threat. Okay, let's go through this and take a look. So, so in any event, sorry, it doesn't display properly in PowerPoint, but the Cartwright public ownership is clear in the royal grants. There's no ox, no horse, no ownership in the water, no grants of Cartwright Island or Ram Island. If you look at the language, there's specific language that says, that from Thomas Donegan, blah, 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 we're going to, it's specifically giving them the island called the Isle of Wight and Gardner's Island. Okay, there's no mention of Ram Island, which existed at the time. We have charts to show that, right? It specifically says what they're going to give
What's
you.
the Isle of Wight?
The Isle of Wight was one of the original names of Gardner's Island.
Oh,
it was called by the Indians. It had an Indian name. It appears in some of the earlier royal grants. It's all up on Cartwright Island.
Did you mention two islands just now, or no?
No.
Gardner's
Okay.
Gardner's
Island
Island.
is the same one.
No. It
Okay.
says formerly called the Isle of Wight, now Gardner's Island.
Okay.
The original Gardner came from the Isle of Wight in England.
Yeah, it's had three names. There's an Indian named Masham. It's kind of like Mashamak, but it's something else.
Okay.
And Isle of Wight and Gardner's Island. Three names. Cartwright's had two names. It was called Ram Island. Now it's called Cartwright Island. So, but it really lists everything that is being given, right? It says messages, tenement buildings, barns, outhouses, farms, orchards, gardens, pastures, meadows, marshes, swamps, woods, underwoods, trees, timbers, quarries, rivers, runs, rivulets, brooks, ponds, lakes, streams, creeks, harbors, breaks, fishing, fowling, hunting, hawking, mines, minerals, and that's it. Okay? Now, by contrast, if you look, that's Donegan's patent. If you look at your Donegan patent, it includes the word beaches. It doesn't give the gardeners the beaches. Okay? If you look at, you know, why the difference? I think, you see, here it is, the word beaches, right there. Okay? You've got the beaches, and that's the most important word in your patent, because it gives you the power over the beaches. They don't have the beaches, right? They don't have anything into the water. You'll not find any language there that gives them that. So, you know, why? Because you're democratically elected. So you're fit trustees of the public trust versus a feudal lord. That's, you know, Donegan knew what he was doing. And all my text is gone. Good Lord. Well, we'll try the other presentation. But basically, the points I was going to make here, these are the Nichols patent language. The Nichols patent language is much more limited than for you and for the gardeners. He expanded the language for both you and the gardeners. Donegan is the guy that made you trustees of the freeholders and commonalty of the town of East Hampton. You weren't called that. This body wasn't called that. You were just a bunch of guys who had a grant. He also made the gardeners, you know, the lords of the manor. He made them feudal lords. So he knew what he was doing, and he expanded the language for both of you, but he expanded it in a very deliberate and different way. So it's worth looking at, but it's not complicated. It's not rocket science. It's all in English. And by the way, that the estate does not include the beaches was confirmed by the 1722 Chandler survey, which is the earliest survey we have of Gardiner's Island, by a surveyor, which specifically excludes the beaches from the total acreage. It says here, no beaches. It's 2,840 acres. Beaches are excluded, right? And the reason for, so that's 500 less acres than they currently think they have. But that's because the beaches are public. So in any event, so where are we going with this? Well, we've got, you know, the display is weird, but
Can I say something about that?
You need to come up to the podium, sir.
well, you know, you'll have a chance afterwards. You can have a chance to chime in and maybe take some questions after if the trustees will let me. This is all new information to everybody, I think. But, you know, one of the things that's driving enforcement is a secret agreement between McGee and the Gaules, which has never been published for the public to see. Now it will be up on the Cartwright Island publicaccess.com website. We only got a hold of this last week, okay? This purports to be a conservation easement and a bird sanctuary, but is it really? You know, it seems to seek to abolish public access rights. That seems to be the purpose. It's the basis, it's, you know, it's when the current enforcement regime started, so it seems that there's a connection. And, you know, the way this was put forward originally, it seems to us like the trustees should have been consulted on this, and the public should have had more time to review this. But I really can't imagine, is there anyone who wants to support an agreement drafted by McGinty? I'm sorry, McGinty. Did I say McGee? McGinty. In any event, you know, again, this purports to be a conservation easement, but the Natural Resources Department usually reviews these prior to their being signed and put into place. Larry Penny has told me that his department and himself were never allowed to review these agreements either before or after they were put into place. He also says that this, you know, he and his department and other scientists working for the town were denied access after 2007. He also says the department has not done, any required annual report on Cartwright Island sanctuary in years. I don't think since 2007, but we haven't gotten all information. But certainly, I've been told by people at the Natural Resources Department that they haven't done this in years. So they're required under the agreement to actually have an annual report, and it doesn't appear that they've done it. So is the agreement a sham? So here are the basic obligations, of the town under, this agreement. They're supposed to maintain the bird sanctuary according to the law. However, the law includes maintaining public access. So there's internal contradictions in this because down here, it says that they shall provide no public access. So this is an internally contradictory agreement. So the town's responsible for issuing, putting up signs and notices. I don't think this town has ever done that. I think the gardeners have been the one putting up the notices there. So in any event, you'll be able to see all this stuff as you go through it. But I have a few observations for you about the McGinty agreement. They're mutually and internally contradictory on several points. Cartwright does not seem to be included in the definition of the full estate. The definition of the full estate in the agreement goes on the tax map for Gardiner's Island. The tax map number for Cartwright is different, right? It doesn't appear in the conservation easement. They show you a picture of what the full estate is. It's only Gardiner's Island. And then you go to the bird sanctuary agreement and the picture gets bigger. And they show Cartwright. So the agreement seems to be deeply flawed. The agreement seems to be intended to abolish public access, but also says the town must follow the law, which requires public access. So it's contradictory. The public access language has loopholes that the town could use to fix the situation. If the town didn't want to do away with the conservation easement because it has some benefit to them, look at this. The language prevents the town from providing or granting public access, but nothing in the language prevents the town from allowing public access by doing nothing, right? Nothing requires the town to put up no access signs or prevents them from taking them down if they're contrary to the law. Nothing prevents the town from recognizing the law or a pre-existing access right under the law. They can't grant a new public access right, but they could recognize a pre-existing access right. So if you look at the flaws in this agreement, it shows the actions that the town might be able to take to fix it with a little guidance from you guys. So in any event, this will all be something for you to dig into, and I hope you guys will, I have put together a resolution which is humbly intended only as a guide for you for what to look into, what to examine, and what actions you might take or what you might say. And I'm sure it's not exactly what you're going to do, but I hope you will look at it and consider it, and maybe can, change it as you see fit. But it's mainly meant for a guidance. I hope that you guys will establish a committee of the trustees to look into this and examine this closely, and within a month or so, be able to come up with a resolution on swift action, as swift as you have ever been able to do, because that's what I think the people of East Hampton want from you, is swift action on these things. I'm also, by the way, I don't know if, is there anyone here from CFAR besides myself? I'm a CFAR member, and I would point out that CFAR has issued a statement on this saying that they agree that Cartwright appears to be public land, and they want this to be investigated and public access to be restored.
We don't take comments from, only because it has to be on the record, so you'd have to come up.
Right. And I'm also going to submit for you a number of emails from people that were not able to be here, but they support what I'm doing, and there are any number of emails in the Star that you can see also in support of this. And I have to say, well, anyway, I won't complain, but well, maybe I will. You know, the Star has threatened to spike some of these emails just because I don't know why. They're claiming that I wrote them, but I didn't. They don't seem to want to cover this fairly. So I hope that they start doing a better job. They've been, the Star has been sitting on information about this that I've shared with them for several months, and I urge them to do a story because they say that they're the paper of record in this town, and yet they haven't investigated this, and they are burying the letters that people write in support of this in the back of their letter section. They write an editorial on the front of their editorial section dismissing what I'm saying, and actually advocating in a legal policy of banning public access to Cartwright, which is illegal, let alone bad policy. And, and then when I give them a response to that, they don't want to publish it at all, not even in their letter section. Incredible.
Don't take it personally, Rod. That's common with that.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on with the Star. In any event, I hope they come to their senses. I actually love the paper. I think it's got a great historical tradition, and the research has been that I've been able to do using the Star has been great. So I hope they come to their senses. But in any event, do you have any questions for me?
Not at this time,
Yeah.
I don't.
Who arrested you? Was it a town, or was it a civil arrest by the owners of Gardens Island?
My understanding is that the head security guy for the Gardeners, who was the guy who was dismissed from the Coast Guard a few years ago, I forget what his name is, was the fellow who signed the arrest, the complaint.
So,
They didn't do a handcuff thing. There were things that I didn't agree with about the way they did it, and yet they did allow me to come in and do a bench appearance where I just showed up and they took my information, etc. So I never was dragged off in handcuffs or anything like that, and I'm very grateful that they did it that way. But still, they shouldn't be enforcing, the guidance from the, I didn't really do a presentation on the Office of General Counsel guidance that says how these things should be enforced, but clearly they didn't use anything like the Office of General Counsel guidance, and the enforcement procedures that they're following bias this against public access rights. Which is completely wrong in the town of East Hampton. They should be following that guidance, which respects public access rights. And you'll find that guidance on the website.
Ryan, I just want to say thank you. This is a very important subject. We do have a very, very large agenda tonight, so I don't.
Yes, I know.
Short, but I think we would like to confer and get back with you, and I think there'll be further discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Rod.
All right, Rod, Tim Taylor did send that letter to us and asked that we read it into record, so I'll do that now.
Oh, please do.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it very much.
Sure. Thank you. To the clerk and board of the East Hampton Town Trustees, Citizens for Access Rights would once again like to state our group's support for beach access. As stated in a previous letter to this board, it is our group's belief that areas between low and high tide are accessible to the public based on the principles set forth by the New York State's Public Trust Doctrine. Based on the information our group has been able to review to date, we believe the area known as Cartwright Island falls into this category. The island itself is underwater for some of the year, and when it is not underwater, it appears that the island is owned by the state of New York. Our group is continuing to look into the history of Cartwright Island, but so far it seems the island is not a part of Gardeners Island, and the foreshore of Cartwright Island should be accessible to the public. It is our understanding that a resident of East Hampton was recently arrested for trespass on the foreshore of Cartwright Island. As a result of the arrest, CFAR is hoping that some clarification on this issue in the public's favor and for trespassing charges to be dismissed. The Board of CFAR will continue to research the deeds and history of the area and will follow the proceedings regarding the trespass charges and will keep our members informed. We urge the town and the trustees to look into this issue also and to stand up for public access should the facts support it. In the meantime, we wish everyone a happy and safe August on the beach. Sincerely, Tim Taylor, President, Citizens for Access Rights. Okay. Next on the list, Craig Van Sickle. Not here? You see him? Okay. Max Rosen?
Take as much time as you want. I feel badly for the lady that left.
It's
you
quick.
know.
My story is very quick. I was there on the date of the incident. I was paddling around on a stand-up paddleboard. I didn't set foot on the island or on the beach or anything. I was merely paddling around, and I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on, but the security boat zipped up to me in a very belligerent way, and the guy started yelling at me. He was like, "You can't go on that private property." And I was like, "What do you want from me? I'm paddling around on a paddleboard." It was ridiculous. And then later on, and I was still paddling around later on when the larger military-style powerboat came up. And the guy kind of did the same thing. He's yelling at me and asking me questions, and it was ridiculous. I wasn't even on the island. That's all I have to say. It was intimidating and ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. Larry Penny? I don't see Larry. Okay, CFAR representative? No. Surf Rider representative? No. Kate Rogers?
Good evening, everyone. I have a little PowerPoint. Oh, do you think I need to do that, Rick? I'm not that tall. I have a PowerPoint presentation. If I could just open it. It is brief. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Looks like I have a lot of notes, but it's just a couple of sentences on each page. My name is Kate Rogers, and I am speaking here this evening before you as a climate leader at the Climate Reality Project and as a resident of Springs, and for no other reason. Briefly, the Climate Reality Project is founded and chaired by Nobel laureate and former Vice President Al Gore. The Climate Reality Project is dedicated to catalyzing a global solution to the climate crisis by making urgent action a necessity across every level of society. With glaciers melting and seas rising and 14 of the 15 hottest years on record coming this century, the threat of climate change has never been clearer. But with solar, wind, and other clean energy solutions becoming more affordable and accessible every year, we have the way forward. And with 195 countries signing the historic Paris Agreement to cut greenhouse gases, the world is finally united in working to seize the promise of renewables and create a safe, sustainable, and prosperous future powered by clean energy. And I'm speaking tonight, I do support the South Fork Wind Farm, but my goal tonight is just to bring climate change to the table and to the forefront. I've heard a lot of talk about costs and other considerations that I know you have to make in your due diligence, but I'm asking you to also please consider the bigger picture and the larger cost to all of us. So I'll be as quick as I can. So I would be best to put this in slide show presentation, Rick?
I think so.
You said that kind of sheepishly.
So this is the first picture of the Earth fully illuminated that any of us ever saw. It was taken on the last of the Apollo missions, and it changed the way that humanity thought about our common home. It reminds us, and it reminds me all the time, that we are all connected, and our actions everywhere, here in East Hampton and everywhere on the globe, impact our planet. I hope it also reminds us to always think of the big picture when we're talking about anything to do with climate change. And this photo is the blue marble photo. This next slide is a photo of the Earth shining over the Earth's horizon through the two lowermost layers of the atmosphere, the troposphere and the stratosphere. So when we look up at the sky, I know it looks like a vast and limitless expanse, the way it appears. But in reality, it is just a thin shell of atmosphere surrounding the planet. The facts are that we are putting 110 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into that atmosphere every single day. We're treating it like an open sewer. That pollution, especially carbon dioxide, is building up and it's trapping heat. There are many sources of man-made global warming pollution. Some agricultural practices, forest burning, like what's going on in California right now, transportation, like the shipping lanes in the ocean and trucks going across our country, and many other factors. But the main source and cause of the rising global temperatures we are seeing today is the burning of fossil fuels. I've heard comments about worries about industrializing the ocean, and that the wind farm particularly can cause that to increase. But in reality, I think that ship has sailed centuries ago. There are thousands of ships like this one fueled by gunk, which is the lowest form, processed form of fossil fuels, oils that you can have. And this includes a new class of super ships, 1,000 foot long, whose prop cavitation is harming our marine mammals, including our whales. Well, we're not going to stop shipping, but hopefully one day we'll be able to power it in a different way. We also have the offshore oil industry that's thriving. Another industrialized use of the ocean is oil exploration and offshore oil drilling. And this is pulling up the sequestered carbon that the Earth naturally sequestered, the best way of sequestration that the Earth took care of millions of years ago by putting it all in the ground, in the form of fossil fuels. While burning fossil fuels themselves, they are pulling them out of the ground and using that seismic mapping technique to do the exploration, which is very harmful to our bottomlands and to our marine mammals. The largest source of global warming pollution is the burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels still provide more than 80% of the world's energy. Their use and emissions has gone up drastically since World War II. Notice in the last few years, even though we're probably going to need a bigger chart, though there has been a leveling off as the world adopts more and more clean energy solutions. As a result of this pollution being trapped in the atmosphere, global temperatures have risen dramatically. 16 of the 17 hottest years ever measured with instruments have occurred since 2001. The hottest year of all was 2016, but I think 2018 could be a contender in that contest. One of the most disturbing things for me is that on a global basis, more than 90% of all of the extra heat, energy trapped by our atmosphere is going into our oceans. This heat, among other things, makes ocean-based storms like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones stronger and more destructive. We know that the number of climate-related extreme weather events has been going up worldwide, according to the insurance industry. In 2016 alone, these disasters caused losses totaling over $175 billion. This is the kind of flooding that's occurring in Miami Beach, Florida, on a sunny day with no rain. This isn't a storm event. High tides now regularly flood the streets of Miami Beach, as well as several other coastal cities around the world. And we know that this situation will only get worse as sea level continues to rise. Quickly, Miami is the #1 city at risk in terms of assets, but there's New York. And in terms of population, we see that many huge cities in developing countries are very much in danger. If parts of these cities become uninhabitable, where will the people go? Oops. A couple of slides I have here, I want to bring it now from the global perspective back to East Hampton. And the CARP study that was done recently is a great resource for us to look at. There was a lot of work that went into it, and I think it's a very reasonable approach to the risks and dangers that we're facing here in East Hampton. And this is the no actions vulnerability assessment results from the public meeting 1 at the town of East Hampton on May 16th, 2017. So here we see a rather considered conservative estimates globally of the amount of sea level rise that we're facing here in our own town. Also in the CARP study, it illustrated the risk that this sea level rise is shown. So the red is the extreme risk, that's the FEMA 100-year velocity flood zone that's considered a regular flooding area. The orange is high risk, and the yellow is moderate risk. And that pretty much covers all of our beaches and coastal areas in our town. This is a slide that illustrates the assets here at home that are at risk. This area of Napeague at $2.1 billion. So we are facing in our future many costs and many impacts. And the idea is to plan accordingly and to always have that future in our scope. Another really sad factor for me personally is that we are now at risk of losing up to 50% of all land-based species in this country. Climate change, along with other factors such as ecosystem loss, is contributing to the worst extinction event since the extinction of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. And then our marine life is also suffering. Warmer waters from climate change will leave fish shrinking, gasping for air as they face the impacts of deoxygenation as the waters of the oceans warm. That impacts our fishing industry. We know also that we have acidification of our oceans happening now. Carbon dioxide dissolves in the ocean to form carbonic acid. These changes in ocean chemistry can disrupt the food web, and they harm our marine mammals and invertebrates. And the vertebrates. CO accumulation and lowered pH may result in acidosis or a buildup of this carbonic acid in the organism's body's fluids. This can lead to lowered immune system response, metabolic depression, behavioral depression, affecting physical action and reproduction. So when we're talking about cost, I hope we always consider what the cost of carbon is in our world. In fact, the World Economic Forum says that climate change is the #1 threat to the global economy. Here at home, we see the effects in our health areas as well. New York has the highest number of confirmed Lyme's disease cases nationwide, according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And mainly this impact is for children. I know folks are comfortable blaming the deer, but in fact, globally, it's recognized that climate change is the reason for the spread of the tick-borne infectious diseases. In fact, I just attended a climate conference in Berlin where doctors and scientists were talking about how the tick-borne illnesses has tripled in the last 12 years. You cannot blame that on deer. We also here at home have been impacted by the cost of carbon in trying to contain the southern pine beetle. At at this, when this article was published in the Star, they were looking at $180,000. I believe that that cost has gone up. We're looking at right here, and the Montauk Downtown Stabilization Project is another cost of climate change. If we're going to translate that into dollars besides the impact upon all of us and our access, one of the provisions in the contract states, therefore, the town and county are responsible for the maintenance of the bags, sand cover, snow fencing, and walkways upon completion of the project. This is an executed agreement for the county and town to share this cost on an annual 50-50 basis. The Army Corps estimated the annual average maintenance cost to be $150,000 a year. Of course, then they add, in any given year, this cost could be higher or lower depending on the severity of storms and sea level rise. So I know everyone here in this room pays taxes, and I know that there's absolutely no difference whether the money comes from the county or the town. It's still coming out of our pockets. In fact, federally, for shore protection, the House of Representatives, the 2017 Disaster Response Bill includes funding within the Flood Control and Coastal Emergency Account to restore authorized shore protection projects to full project profile. That funding is set at $60 million with this proviso. The Corps is reminded that if additional work can be done, these projects are also eligible to compete for an additional funding of $200 million for flood and storm damage reduction. That also is coming out of our pocket. So to finish up, in December of 2015, at the Paris climate negotiations, virtually every nation in the world agreed to phase down greenhouse gases pollution to net zero emissions as early in the second half of this century as possible. In addition to actions by countries, it is more important than ever that we take the lead on climate. We are now seeing corporations, states, provinces, local governments, and cities commit to taking actions to reduce emissions. And as you know, our current administration has chosen to ignore our benchmarks for our reduction in greenhouse gases. And that makes it all the more important for the rest of us to pick up the slack and do what we know globally needs to be done. And this is because that beautiful world, it depends on us all taking action. And I love that you're listening, and I thank you so much for your time and all your diligence that you do for us here in the town of East Hampton. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you very much, Kate.
Gordian? Hey, John, can you hand me that? Please? Thank you.
And also wanted to say something.
I'm sorry?
This gentleman sitting here wanted to say something when Rod Richardson was
Oh,
on.
yes, to sign it.
Sir, if you want to say something, did you sign that?
Good evening. My name is Gordian Rocky. I'm Executive Director of the not-for-profit organization Renewable Energy Long Island. I promise I have one slide I want to show you, and I'm going to try to be brief around it. First of all, I wanted to thank you, all of you as elected officials, for doing what you do and for protecting our environment in a very diligent way. I think that's important, and I feel very proud and lucky to live in a community where we have elected officials like you that face these issues, recognize the threats to our environment and our lifestyle, and take action and face these issues head on. Like the speaker before me, I'd like to look at the big picture for a few minutes here. We've heard about climate change and the impacts of climate change on sea level rise and extreme weather events that we're starting to witness, and we heard about the impacts on our oceans, whether it's warming of the ocean or acidification, loss of habitats, and even now the beginning of a slowing of the Gulf Stream that scientists have now detected, which I think if that continues and if that is in fact happening, we are in pretty deep trouble. I wanted to talk about the fact that we now need to take action on a large scale. I have solar panels on my home. I drive a Prius and all those things, and those are all good things, and many of us do that, and those are very important steps. But those steps by themselves will not help us solve the climate crisis. We have now very little time left, and we face a humongous, a giant threat, and our solutions to this problem have to be commensurate in scale to the threat we're facing. And this is the one slide I wanted to show you. There's now a real sense of urgency because we have waited far too long to act. We could have started this when scientists first told us that we need to begin to ramp down our carbon emissions, but we have done nothing. Nothing that was able to bring that curve of annual emissions down. Emissions continue to go up and up and up and up, and we ignored scientists' warnings. We now have about a decade, some say just a few years left, to begin to bend this emissions curve down so that by mid-century we'll be at the levels where we need to be, essentially decarbonize our entire economy, where we use energy sources that do not produce carbon emissions. And you know, to me, when I look at that, this is a report done by scientists just recently, and they looked at 2016 as a point where we should start bending this curve down and reduce emissions. This reminds me of, let's say arriving at JFK Airport. About 20 minutes before you get there, the pilot comes on the PA system and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to put your seatbelt on. We're going to begin our descent." If you miss that point, it's going to be a rough landing or no landing at all. And we now have no more time left to delay our descent here. We have very little time left. So I look at it this way. Excuse me. Nature has given us a deadline, and ignoring nature's deadline is not an option. Because if we did that, we would face tipping points, as climate scientists call that, and feedback loops that would accelerate the warming and the sea level rise and the melting of glaciers and ice sheets to a point of no return, to a point where all hope would be lost. Our children, our grandchildren, and future generations are going to ask us, did you act? And did you act at scale and with the urgency that was required? I don't think any of us wants to face the next generation and say, we knew about the threat, we had all the means to address it, and we didn't do it. That is not an option either. So I am proud, as I said, to live in a place and in a state that is recognizing this threat and is taking action now, such as New York State's goal and mandate, actually, that utilities meet 50% of their electricity consumption from renewable electricity supply from renewable energy sources by 2030. That's just a few years from now, and that's what we need to do. Eventually, all electricity needs to be coming from renewables, and of course, that's what the town of East Hampton has set as a goal. We need to ramp up deployment of solar. We got to put solar in every house that's suitable for it, on parking lots, everywhere else. We need to do everything we can to improve the energy efficiency of our homes, and there are great programs about that. We need to bring peak demand down. We need to install smart thermostats and energy-efficient pool pumps and a lot of these things. But we also will need offshore wind. You know, I'm a proponent of that. But we need to act quickly, and we don't have the luxury of waiting another decade or another 2 decades. So I believe we have a unique opportunity as residents, as citizens, and as humans on this planet to be heroes in the fight of our survival and the solutions to climate change. You as elected officials, just like all of us, have that responsibility, but you bear an even greater burden on your shoulders because we elected you to act on our behalf. And I want to, again, thank you for being there for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gordian.
Thank you. Linda James.
May I please speak briefly
Yeah.
before Linda steps up? Obviously, the last 2 speakers spent a lot of time and a lot of energy preparing those 2 presentations. I'd like to thank you guys very much for that. I'd like to request that you guys who prepared these presentations would please come back to us in a few weeks. And I think that this group of trustees, I've spent a lot of time now on Deepwater Wind South Fork and speaking with the trustees and with the community, but I don't believe the trustees need education on the climate change. I think we all can agree on a lot of these pertinent points. So my request and my charge to you, who have done such a nice job with such detail in these presentations, to please come back to us and educate us on how the South Fork Wind Farm project, these 15 windmills, can reverse these effects and how that can reduce emissions, because that's something that would really help us when we make these decisions. So please, I'd welcome you to come back with a great presentation on how this 15 windmill project would help reverse these effects of all these changes which you have so greatly detailed. Thank you very much.
Kate, would you come up to the podium, please?
What I would be comfortable speaking on is how globally how wind is being used globally to combat the climate crisis and to power energy and reduce the burning of fossil fuels. There's 4,000 wind turbines off of Europe. I just came back from Berlin, and I'll bring you back that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're up.
Joan McGivern.
Yeah, what about Linda? Linda James?
Linda James.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Linda.
Better hurry.
So I'm going to shift our conversation, and I'm going to talk locally. And I'm going to talk locally to you. I haven't done so in a period of time. I want to talk about what we can accomplish locally if we are all working together in meeting this challenge to our own community. I'm going to submit for the record, I do not have a PowerPoint, but it will be in the record, the Energy Sustainability Committees. As you know, I'm the chair. They're developing clean energy portfolio. And in this clean energy portfolio are many opportunities for residents, for businesses, for trustee leadership, for anyone who is interested in making it possible to pass on to our children and their children a better local community to live in. You will see that we have in our energy portfolio, obviously, wind energy. You know we are proponents of wind energy. We need it to meet our 100% goal. But we also have other projects that we are enlisted in, and this is only growing. So rather than spend any more time, when you invite us to come back, I will make a complete presentation on what this little piece of paper, this portfolio of icons, can mean to our community and how we, the trustees and the town-appointed committees, can work collaboratively to accomplish this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, Joan McGivern.
Good evening. I'm Joan McGivern, and thank you for listening tonight. I'm here mostly to untangle a mess that I think happened about a week or so ago when someone spoke to you about an alleged conversation. Well, it was a conversation I had, but it wasn't depicted in a way that I feel that I was communicating. So the good news is, part of the conversation was that we agreed that the Deepwater Wind deal was in effect a done deal, in the sense that it's out of our hands. And why is this not forwarding? Okay. It's a fixed price contract that's been awarded. It's been approved by the state AG and the state controller. And so that now we also agreed it's basically a real estate deal. And in the case of the trustees, it's your power under your patent. What we did disagree on is whether SECRA is violated. So I'm just going to put up all these points and bear with me a minute. There have been some claims that SECRA is being violated by granting the easement. SECRA expressly exempts the placement of an electrical transmission line of such power and length from the type of government actions, otherwise called Type 2 actions, from SECRA review. Instead, a certificate of environmental compatibility for the easement's use needs to be obtained from the New York Public Service Commission under the Article 7 proceeding, the so-called Article 7 proceeding. Article 7 proceedings are intended to govern virtually all aspects of the siting of a transmission line. So that was one point of disagreement, whether the easement could be granted before a full SECRA review was done. And my point to him was simply that SECRA doesn't apply, not that it's not relevant. SECRA doesn't apply because all the environmental issues are taken up under the basket of the Article 7 proceeding. So what's the urgency? His point was, why not wait till the whole Article 7 proceeding is over and all the environmental reviews are done? Well, part of that problem is you can't complete an Article 7 proceeding because the Article 7 proceeding is about the siting of the transmission line itself. So it is a site-specific proceeding. So I think we all know the answer to this. What does Deepwater Wind need? It wants the easement rights to the Wainscott Beach. And then the next question is, why now? Again, point of disagreement, why wait? Another point of disagreement we had was he asserted that it was rare to secure rights before rights, meaning the easement rights or the property rights, before the article proceeding is completed. I think this is a point of misunderstanding. It is true that it's rare to receive easement rights when you're a public utility or you're a publicly regulated entity and you already have a right to use the public utility right of way. It is not rare when you're talking about a private applicant, like a non-utility applicant or non-municipal applicant that doesn't have access to public utility rights-of-way, like deep water. I'm sorry if this is somewhat technical, but it is. So for private non-utility applicants, a private applicant must secure those rights from the pertinent municipality it will be crossing or occupying the municipal property. So there are two things that happen simultaneously. They start an Article 7 proceeding, and they also file what's known as a Section 68 proceeding. I have a copy of the law review article called Citing Transmission Lines for New York Offshore Wind Projects, and I can hand it in for the record. Was published last August of 2017. So a Section 68 proceeding is actually a Section 68 petition is supposed to be accompanied by a certified copy of the franchise, meaning the easement granted by the municipality or municipalities in which the construction is proposed or the authority is to be exercised, with a verified statement by a responsible official of the petitioner that all municipal consents have been secured that were required by law. So that's the urgency for the easement to be granted, so that the two actions occur at the same time. There's proof by the private applicant, like Deep Water, that it has secured the easement rights within the Article 7 proceeding. So at some point, it has to demonstrate it secured the rights before the citing can be approved. At the same time, in order to prove that it's secured those rights, it needs to apply for permission from the Public Service Commission to exercise those rights, it's like a tongue twister, under a Section 68 proceeding. So that was the gist of what I wanted to communicate, because I feel like the last speaker who I allegedly had this conversation with sort of left you with the impression that you could wait till the Article 7 proceeding was over. Another issue that came up was why Deepwater Wind had to consider alternative routes. It's not so much that it has to consider alternative routes. As part of the citing proceeding, it must present its preferred route. Its preferred route at this point is to go through Wainscott, because that would be the shortest and least disruptive route. But it only can present that as the preferred route if, and I'm going to go back to what I talked about before, it has the rights to do that. Otherwise, there's really no point in it going through the whole citing proceeding if it argues for this preferred route and it doesn't have the rights to the preferred route.
Excuse me. I'd just like to disagree with that statement. Deepwater Wind's required to identify a preferred route and any alternative routes.
That's correct.
So they're not, doesn't mean that they're required to have that primary route easements prior to the application. In fact, it's forecasted to take approximately 2, possibly 3 years of the Article 7 process, as to which you have that time, if needed, to continue to negotiate with Deepwater Wind regarding which site and which easement or lease will be granted.
That is correct, but when you're a company and you're working on a contract that's $1.6 billion, you don't necessarily want to put that at risk until you go in holding all the cards.
So that's a business decision. That's not in facts under the law that you're quoting.
I think I was careful in saying they don't want to go into an Article 7 proceeding without having those rights secured, because it would be pointless to go through a 2 or 3 year proceeding and then find out at the end that they couldn't secure the rights to their preferred route. If you want to call that a business decision, it's a business decision, but it's operating within the legal framework. It's a realistic assessment of how to handle a business risk. And I think I said at the beginning that I agreed that this was a real estate deal. So to your point, it's a business decision in the sense that it's a real estate deal, and when would be most beneficial to get that real estate deal done from the perspective of deepwater wind. There was another point that came up, which is whether the trustees in the town would have standing to participate in the Article 7 proceeding. And I think this somewhat got lost in how it was presented. We did agree that standing as of right goes to any municipality through which any portion of a transmission line is proposed to go. A question is raised if the transmission line goes through Hither Hills, which is state-owned, to what extent you as trustees could participate. On the other hand, standing would be clear if it was proposed to go through Wainscott, meaning you can participate in the 2 or 3 year process that the Article 7 proceeding will take, during which time all the environmental reviews will be happening. And I'm assuming the trustees would want to participate in those reviews. And I think this is to your point, Deepwater Wind doesn't want to apply for an Article 7 proceeding to go through Wainscott unless it has the rights to do so. And it's kind of just that simple. Really, the question comes down to me, the benefits package, and wouldn't your constituents be better served with a proffered package or some negotiated version of that package than doing nothing and waiting, which you were urged to do about a week and a half ago. It's a real estate deal, and I would urge you to resolve to negotiate a deal so that we could get on with getting the South Fork Wind Farm built, assuming it passes all environmental tests. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Alice Tepper Marlin.
Alice had to leave, and I don't know if it's permissible for me to read her remarks to you or submit them to the record.
Well,
but
it's not a hearing, so we're not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to hearings, as you know.
Just
So-
a regular meeting, Kate.
Would it be okay for me to read her remarks in lieu of her being herself?
Is
She
it
had to leave with her
presentation
husband.
or remote?
No, it's just words.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I haven't read through this, so I'm going to be as quick as possible. I just would like to state that Alice Temper Marlin is founder of a Council on Economic Priorities and served as its CEO for 30 years. A CEP research and issued a series of highly regarded, widely reported energy studies, including PowerPoint for Performance, The Price of Power, Jobs and Energy on Long Island. Alice has been a resident and voter in the Springs for 35 years, and these books were published by MIT Press and others. And I'll read her remarks. Thank you each and every trustee for welcoming comments, especially in your deliberations about the South Fork Wind Farm. The town board's decision to approve landing in Wainscott for the cable for the South Fork Wind Farm is a well-considered, far-sighted, and intelligent one. This decision carries us one step further on the high road to transform from fossil fuel to renewables, delivering on East Hampton's commitment to be powered 100% by renewables by 2030. I am proud to live in the first community in New York State to make such a pledge. Now it is our duty to make good on that pledge. The wind farm is the only way it can be accomplished. Each year of delay, should we foolishly wait for still more research and deliberation, is another year we fail to lessen the acidification of our waterways, acid that eats away at the shells of clams, oysters, and other crustaceans that are crucial to our fishing industry and the quality of our life. And another year we fail to act to lessen the devastating effects of climate change on this coastal community we love. The Deepwater Wind approvals process will have nearly 24 more approval decisions ahead. The East Hampton will have standing to intervene as the in-depth environmental reviews are conducted at the state and federal levels. That is the appropriate venue for East Hampton to be vigilant, protecting marine life and our fishing community. A positive trustee approval will also ensure East Hampton will have full authority to specify a wide range of elements related to the laying of the cable on land, so as to minimize disruption of traffic and at all times construction and to time all construction on land to avoid our peak seasons. Once the cable has been laid, as those of us who made the trip to Block Island to see Deepwater Wind's cable landing know, all will be visible near the beach will be a few manhole covers in the parking area. The ugly overhead wires now leading up the road from the beaches will be buried, and all Deepwater-related cables will be buried too. The mischievous charge that children playing on the beach will hear electricity running deep underneath is just paranoia or mischief with no basis in fact. We hope that the trustees will follow the will of the vast majority of our citizens, the leadership of the town board, and its mission to protect our waterways by advancing this crucial step towards sustainability. Any and all possible adverse and ecological impact from the wind farm is dwarfed by the immense damage exacted by acidification of our waterways and by climate change impacts attributable to burning fossil fuels instead. If the trustees deny access, then Deepwater Wind will almost certainly land its cable on state property that would entail far more disruption to traffic and more construction noise in our community, because the land route to the substation would necessarily be considerably longer, and the trustees would forfeit at least $8.5 million in funds negotiated with Deepwater Wind for a wide range of important water protection and sustainability work, plus the prospect of local jobs that otherwise are likely to go to Rhode Island and Connecticut residents. The fishing community will almost surely find no adverse effects on their livelihood from the wind farm. Deepwater Wind has agreed to a process for making good on any related damage to fishing equipment that might occur. While there are significant differences in different geographic sites, it is encouraging that no adverse impact on catch has been observed in Europe, where over 4,000 offshore wind turbines spin. At a prior hearing, a wholly false claim by a speaker who claimed expertise, experience, and knowledge about the German experience falsely attributed the recent increase in carbon emissions from German fossil fuel plants to Germany's big increase in wind power. The truth is that the increase was entirely due, instead, to Germany shutting down nuclear power plants after the tragic Fukushima accident. Half of Germany's nuclear power plants were rapidly closed, and the remainder are slated to be closed by 2022. The effect would have far more adverse had renewables, including wind power, not taken up some of the slack. And the wind is more steady offshore than on land, especially off our Atlantic coast. On the trustees' website, there is concern expressed by a member of the public about the threat to birds from the proposed wind farm. That was a valid concern some years ago for wind turbines on land where the turbine arm spins much faster. Current windmill construction is vastly different. The arms are far longer and spin quite slowly. In addition, few of our migrating birds fly 35 miles offshore, where the wind turbines will be sited. That's the key to the reason that the Audubon Society and virtually all the highly respected New England environmental organizations are on record favoring these offshore wind farms. Various lead environmental groups have been working together for years in reviewing the South Shore Wind Farm and other responsibly sited lease areas off of southern New England. Audubon is supportive of project development occurring in this area generally, and like NWF, will continue to monitor the process and review the full environmental impact statement analysis that the federal government, BOEM, will be doing once Deepwater Wind submits its final construction and operations plan for approval. Each of us individually can also make substantial contributions to the transformation to renewables. We can and should participate in the various energy efficiency and renewable energy opportunities available in the town's peak energy and other renewable programs. Some are free, like Nest thermostats and efficient bulbs. Others are significantly subsidized, such as the installation of solar energy and alternating pool pumps. John and I, and she's speaking of her husband, appreciate the benefits from the 10K solar power on our roof and Nest Peak Energy System for our AC. To participate in any of our East Hampton programs, go to energizeeh.org or look on Facebook. Thank you, trustees, and all of the thoughtful citizens who participate time and again in the open town and trustee meetings on these matters so integral to the beauty and the economy of our gorgeous seaside community, the marine life we seek to protect, and the fishing community that will benefit from sustainable energy sources. Respectfully submitted, Alice Temper Marlin. Thank you for your time and patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Kate.
All right, Christine Martin?
Christine's not here.
Okay. Nan French?
Good evening, trustees. I'm very happy to speak here and to have the opportunity to speak here. I did send you some letters that, when I rechecked, you never got. So
We received them.
you received them? Okay. So if you haven't read them, I'd appreciate it if you have, so I don't want to have to read that in again. Okay? So,
I read it.
Yeah, they were
good.
handwritten.
Thank you.
I read it.
Okay, great. It's a little teeny bit of a repeat, but the Dongan patent is still upheld today. It gives the trustees land ownership, and it includes ownership of beaches, and it protects access rights and fishing. You are still in charge of the beaches, well, it was kind of explained earlier, and have jurisdiction over the beaches. Deepwater is asking the trustees to give them access to the beach. I am asking you to say no for the following reasons. And in my letters that I've written, there are other reasons. It doesn't meet peak demand. It doesn't produce enough in the summer when we need it. Now, that's just a fact. It's an intermittent source. It's a variable source. In the summer, we have less wind here. So you know what happens? You could have 3 days with no wind. All right? That's just a fact. It's not something I'm making up. So aren't we looking for something that meets our peak demand? That's what we're looking for. This does not. Okay, so it doesn't. So then what happens? How does the project work with that? Okay? They're going to build new turbines, new fossil fuel turbines. Okay? Now, it was great to hear that whole presentation about fossil fuel, right? And now, since this cannot meet our peak demand, then we're going to build fossil fuel turbines, new ones, and then even regenerate or restore older ones. And they're quick-powered fossil fuel plants. So isn't that a contradiction to what this is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to meet, it's supposed to meet peak power, and it doesn't. So now we have to burn fossil fuel. I don't know, I think that's enough right there to say no. Okay, let's go on. It will not have a positive impact on climate change because it's going to burn fossil fuels. So whatever benefit we get from it, there's a benefit on one side, burning fossil fuels on the other side, X crosses it out. We gain nothing. We lose. Maybe we even lose more, according to some of our presentations today. It will not contribute towards the goal of 100% renewable energy. Why? Because we're going to need fossil fuel plants. The cost is outrageous, as you've been told, and it has been a secret. Okay, Newsday said 22 cents. Cy Kinsella said some things. It could be 22 cents and more for the next 20 years, paid by you and me. You know, the way this is done, we are bearing the burden, the ratepayers of this. You know, I just read something on the internet. In Texas, there was a wind farm project that they wanted to do. Do you know that the Texas government said no because too much of the ratepayers, too much of the cost would be borne on the ratepayers? So that's something to think about. That government just said, no, it's all borne on us. And it really kind of upsets me. Okay. The cost is outrageous. Vineyard Wind in Massachusetts, a week or so ago, just approved a plant, wind farm. It's going to be 7 cents a kilowatt hour. It's another wind farm, and Deepwater is going to try to have us commit for 20 years to 22 cents plus, and we don't even know if that's the right figure because everything has been secretive here. Why should we be burdened with that, you and me? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's illogical. Unless, maybe it's because, Deepwater Wind just wants to make money, and we could foolishly let them. It's a perpetuation of an electrical power monopoly for the next 20 years. Now, we pay very high rates here because of Shoreham and other debacles we've gotten into. This is just like another one waiting to happen, and I think we'd be foolish if we accepted it. Okay, so there's $1.6 billion for the wind farm. PSEG has a filing with New York State for massive underground transmission lines from Shinnecock Canal to the new Wainscott substation for $500 million. Okay, now we need those new transmission lines because we don't have access to enough energy when we're running all our air conditioners in the summer when we have peak demand. We don't have access to it. Okay, so they're going to have to build transmission lines from Shinnecock Canal out to the new substation. That's what they want the $500 million for. So I'm just a regular person like you, but I'm thinking taking over $2 billion, costing over $2 billion for a 90-megawatt wind farm that on an average will produce 36 to 37 kilowatts. And that it's not going to meet peak demand is dumb. I'm sorry, that's how it strikes me. You are not dumb. The people in the town are not dumb. You're trying to do the right thing, and I really appreciate it. That's how I feel, not you being dumb. Here's another reason. No Article 7 review has been done. No decision should be made without all the information in your possession. We don't have enough information. The whole thing has been done in secret. It's been a secret about the price. It was secret how the Deepwater Wind was picked. They were the only offshore wind farm bidding. A secret agreement between LIPA, and do you know that LIPA and Deepwater Wind are partners? They're business partners. Isn't that a little funny? A business partner giving the contract to their business partner? It just sounds funny to me. Also, this is the wrong location. East Hampton is the wrong location because we're what's called a pocket, a low pocket area. And you never put a wind farm in a low pocket area. From an engineering standpoint, it is the wrong location. So LIPA and PS, maybe they're proposing a plan like this because they have no idea about what they're doing. They're pretty new at this. I mean, I'm thinking, why are they proposing an idea like this? It's for so many reasons, it seems incorrect. Or maybe there's a big political agenda pushing this forward on the state, federal, and local levels. Now, also another reason, there are big environmental impacts on the marine environment, and we don't have enough credible scientific information to make any decision. We need experts. to review this. This is a big deal. It's not just giving permission for a road easement or something. This is a big deal. We need really scientific expert help before we make a big decision like this.
Can I interject?
Yes.
Everything you're saying, we've been discussing for months and months and months. So you're really just reiterating what we already know.
Well, you know, I haven't been here before, so I think I have a right to reiterate what you already know because it's how I feel.
Well, you may have a right, okay, to do that, but I'm not so sure that we have to sit here and hear the same thing over and over either.
Well, you've heard people for 20 minutes. Mine's going to take 7 or 8 or 10
Okay.
at the most, so I think you have to afford me that courtesy.
You were good right up until the courtesy. I said, yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. So let's work toward renewable energy goals for the town, but let's explore multiple options that will work, be cost-effective, environmentally sound, and benefit our Mother Earth. Like I'm not an expert, but just some I could think of, combining solar, geothermal, tidal energy, lithium batteries. Those are things that I've heard. But I'm no expert. I can't say what's good for the town. But I can say that this is not good for all these reasons, in my opinion. So let's not rush to do it to meet a specific goal. Just because we have that specific deadline, we shouldn't rush. Let's do it, but let's do it right. At the minimum, don't grant anything to Deepwater Wind before you have an Article 7 review. To do less doesn't make sense to me. So that's basically what I have to say. Thank you for permitting me to speak.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander Peters?
Good evening to this esteemed body. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for all these years of protecting our public access to things I have enjoyed my entire life. I've been riding through the Stony Hill Woods and the trails of Amagansett and Springs for since 1960. And I know that you guys have been making that possible and keeping our public access through the woods a wonderful thing. But what I'm talking to you tonight about is our public access to the beaches. I've been canoeing and kayaking to Cartwright Shoals for the better part of 50 years, and I want to continue to do that. And I know that the reason I'm able to do that is because of you guys and the Dongan patent. And I just really appreciate that ability, and I want every person in East Hampton to be able to continue to do that. And I want to thank you for making that possible. And I was really astonished to hear that my dear friend Rod Richardson was assailed by the Galette's Navy coming out to assault him for asserting his right to do something that we all publicly enjoy here. That's one of the wonderful things about living in our town, is that we can make use of these resources. And I just wanted to say, I really hope you're going to put the stop to this. Because these people don't own Cartwright Island. It's very clear. The Dongan patent makes it very clear. They own Gardiner's Island. They don't own Cartwright Island, Cartwright Shoals, whatever we want to call it. They don't own it. The state of New York does. And so it's public land that we can all access. And that should be the way it is. They have no right to harass citizens of our town who are making use of rights that we've had forever. Thank you very much. And I just want to throw in, I love your thing about Litterdale. Let me be part of your litter army anytime. Appreciate it, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Arlene Gideon?
No, it's right here.
Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm not very good at this, standing at the podium. Anyway, my name is Arlene Gideon. I am on the East Hampton Recycle and Litter Committee, which was reactivated about 5 years ago. And we are working on solutions for recycling and litter. And I'm here to support Del Cullum and his call to you, the trustees of East Hampton, Village, and Town. Are you both Village and Town? Or just
We're the
Village?
town trustees, East Hampton Town Trustees.
East Hampton Town Trustees. Okay, well, I'm here to ask for the village, right, to remove the garbage cans from the beach and for you to support that because it only creates more litter. And we at the East Hampton Town Recycle and Litter Committee are working on signs, carry in, carry out. No garbage pails on the beach, because it only gets overflowed with bottles, with cans, with straws, with styrofoam, with ribbons, balloons, people's food. I mean, it's disgusting. I clean up beaches all the time. I clean up roads. I mean, where I live, my road all of a sudden is full of litter. I go to the mailbox and I'm out for an hour picking up litter or up and down the roads. I mean, if I go to the beach just for a walk, wind up picking up litter. I mean, you have to support recycling and no more litter here. People don't understand what they're doing. People just throw, this has nothing to do with, you can't do this on the beach, I guess, but people just throw bottles, their beer bottles or any glass bottles, on the roads. And I adopted a road, and I'm, standing there for like a half hour, 45 minutes, picking up glass to make sure an animal doesn't hurt themselves or someone's children don't, run off the road. I mean, we want to keep our beaches clean. Our beaches are full of plastic. Our oceans are full of plastic and garbage and everything else. It's disgusting. And somebody said this, which was, I thought, something that I would like to say. Common sense says carry in, carry out. Okay? Our state parks have no garbage pails. They have signs, different wording, but they have signs. And there's no litter. And then what do you do with all this? People just think the garbage cans are full. They don't look, and they just put all their garbage in the middle of the garbage cans or on the ground next to the garbage cans. Get the garbage cans off the beaches, and then maybe our beaches will be somewhat cleaner, because people are starting to clean up the oceans. And all this litter, thank you, won't get into our oceans. Because that's what's going to happen. It won't kill our seagulls. It won't kill our marine life. I mean, do something, please. That's it.
Thanks, Arlene.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene.
More, I could go on, but
Please.
thank you very much. You want me to?
No.
Oh,
Did a wonderful job. Yes.
Okay, I saw Richard Lester leave. Phyllis Italiano?
Good evening, and I must say you have more patience than any group of people I have ever met in my life.
Thank you.
I'd like to have you in my classroom. And that's as a matter of fact of what I am. I'm a retired school teacher and school administrator. I'm a member of the Springs CAC. And I am also talking about the cans on the beach. Because in the 80s, I taught reduce, reuse, recycle. And it has been ingrained in my head and in my heart all of my life since that time. And while climate change is an enormous, unbelievable thing that we are facing, what you have in front of you is a very small problem. It's not as big a thing, and it's something that we can trust the trustees to help us with. I had no preparation, I have no slides, I have no pictures, and I just remembered that when I used to interview Tim Bishop, our former congressman, on my show, he would always say, if you can't have clean water and pristine beaches, that what you have out here is not going to last. So well, I'm asking you to put the trustees to trust you to do that job. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Louis Mackle?
My name is Louis Mackle. On the subject of Cartwright, to me, it's simply what is the law? And I think that the town, the trustees, everybody should find out what it is as quickly as possible, and then it's settled. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very
Amelia,
interesting topic.
I can't.
Hi.
Hi, can you
My
repeat your
name's-
last name? Okay.
My name is Amelia Sperry, and I'm a resident of East Hampton. And I support public access to Cartwright Island. And I hope you're able to resolve this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Succinct and to the point.
Okay, is there anybody else? Please introduce yourself.
Hello. Elizabeth Halliday, Amagansett. Of course, there are plenty of things that one could talk about tonight. I'm here also in support of public access for Cartwright Island. It's a rite of passage for a lot of people to visit. I don't think there's going to be any development. Everyone knows that in cases of emergency that you can land on the foreshore. The question is it not permissible because it's for recreation? I believe that the CFAR statement states it very clearly between the low tide and high water mark. Residents, even people, visitors, can land a vessel or walk themselves along the beaches there. And I believe that criminal charges against someone doing that are inappropriate. I believe and hope that those charges would be dismissed. However, any vagary associated with this issue should be resolved and settled so that the public knows the rule. And I should hope that if it turns out that Cartwright Island is included, that there be some kind of compromise for a section of Cartwright designated for recreation. We'd want to keep the bird sanctuary. I think everyone here cares about wildlife, but everyone is here because of the lifestyle. And to deny access would set a bad precedent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask, not you, but is it proper, can I ask Rod, just, is there a date for your court date? Is there what's the proceeding? Yeah, if you would.
Yeah, it's October 4th for the proceeding but that's the date at which the DA has to give us discovery for, what they've got. And so far, we've seen nothing that supports this private property claim. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to see something.
I was wondering, because we do have another meeting before then, well, we've got several before then.
Several.
Certainly we can
Number of 'em.
come up with some more thorough investigating and information for you,
Yeah.
Rod. That's all, that's the only reason I was asking.
Sure, I would hope, maybe you guys could, one of the things you could do is ask the DA to dismiss this as obviously frivolous after you've looked into it a little bit.
You might be better off asking the owners to produce the deed.
Oh, we already
Part of the
did.
case.
Trust
No, I
me,
mean-
trust me.
No, but I mean, if they
before-
dismiss they might dismiss the case instead of showing the deed.
Uh-huh. Well, we have all the deeds already. We've pulled all the deeds, so the question is, what else do they have? We have every single royal grant, every single thing in the county court records. We've done thorough title searches, and there just isn't anything. So it's this, we've asked for them to, give us at least what their argument is. And I've said, look, if you guys tell me, why do you think you own this? If you can show me why you own this, I'll never go on there again. And they said they wouldn't do that because they, I would, I don't know why they wouldn't do it, but they decided to proceed with public arrest.
I suspect we'll get to the bottom of it in one way or another.
The public.
Thank you so much. I hope you do that.
The New York State Public Trust Doctrine originated in England.
Sure.
It was a part of English law
Yeah.
way back before the island was settled.
Well, I may be back here to share more information with you, but, and indeed, I didn't tell you who are the Cartwrights. I found out who the Cartwrights are that it's named after. I didn't share a lot of stuff, but one of the things that's really interesting about what you just said is that, the majority of the feudal estates that were established by royal grants are in England, not here in America.
Mm-hmm.
And in England, all of those feudal estates are open to the public. They've decided that those feudal estates have a public character. They were meant to be communities, not private homes, right? So because of that, and the fact that, in fact, all of England was feudal estates at one time, they now have something called the right to roam, written into law, which gives people the right to go anywhere they want to on certain kinds of land.
Which is our Donegan.
Yeah.
Our Donegan patent gives us.
Your Donegan, it's similar, but it's actually more codified even in the UK, where they have all these original royal grants. So anyway, but I'll come back and introduce you, as we get more information, I'll come back and share other aspects of this with you.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Rod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to new business.
You can have a meeting.
Okay. Accabonacock Creek, an application was received from the town of East Hampton, Natural Resources Department entitled Hog Creek Groundwater Seepage, Professional Monitoring and Remediation. So this needs to be turned over.
Yeah, I called this afternoon to Natural Resources and spoke with Mark Abramson, and Melissa is out today. So he expressed what the program, the proposal is.
Mhm.
And then I spoke with Bill. I don't know,
Yeah.
Susan, have you called or?
I have not had a chance, no,
Yeah.
I just,
So-
today was like my
This
first
is
day
all,
off in a
this
long
is all
time.
similar to what we're doing out in the Peak. We're trying to identify they're trying to identify sources of nitrogen so they can put the reactive barriers, like they're trying with the new cesspool technology that Dr. Goldberg was reporting on, where they put a carbon source there, and it actually converts the nitrogen in wastewater into atmospheric nitrogen, which, just goes away and doesn't bother anybody anymore. So,
My understanding
Mark-
is that these wells are upland.
Yes, I was told by Mark that they're not in trustee waters or trustee land. They just want to get an okay from us that we're aware of this. but it is, they need to identify where the nitrogen is flowing from.
So why do we have an
to
application if
hotspots?
it's not in our purview?
Looking for the note.
I'm not sure.
I don't know,
I mean,
but
they're
kind of
doing
appreciate
testing.
it.
Yeah, well, it's nice to get the recognition.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that Natural Resources is sort of trying to work with us and acknowledge our sort of shared interest in, trying to keep the waters clean.
They're doing,
In the near proximity of.
Now, it
the
said
water.
also that they did a presentation at a town board work session. I would like to see that presentation. If they could.
When did this project
Get
originate?
the email with the
The
PowerPoint
original?
presentation on it. I think they had the
Yeah,
slides.
that whole printout that we got.
September 7th, 2000, and it's
I
cut
didn't
off.
get any.
2001,
2017.
17, okay.
I don't disagree with you, Susan. I'd like to see it too.
Yeah,
And I did.
I would like to see it.
Is it on LTV?
I would think if it was done at a town
You
board
can call
meeting.
it up by
Yeah.
video on
Well,
demand.
I think it should be presented to us.
Well, I mean, if we all agree that it's outside of our
But if it's, yeah, then why do we?
review,
hold an
why do we
application?
have to require them to come and do a presentation?
Well, I'm not sure that it is or it isn't at the moment.
Then why do we have an application?
I mean, I don't see anything here that,
I'm looking through it. now.
there's surface water testing. The wells apparently are on in the marshland.
I think what we need to do is review it more carefully for those of us who are not familiar with it, and then have another discussion.
Did you
about it.
get any idea of what their time frame needs are?
September, you know what, I wrote this down, I actually typed it up when I spoke to Mark. I think he said August 20th they'd like to begin,
We
so
don't-
it's right around the
We
corner.
don't even meet before then.
Yeah. Is there anything about this that we would be against?
Well, from what you have expressed to me and what Mark told me, it seems as though it's a good program. They're trying to identify where the nitrogen is
Sources of
coming,
nitrogen.
so that they can eradicate that.
Sounds like exactly what we have Cornell Cooperative doing out in the Peak Harbor.
I don't have a problem with it. The only concern I have is, being that we aren't doing a deep dive into exactly where this is all taking place, is this was proposed almost a year ago, and we're just being notified now.
That's
I just
what
think
I
it would be
have a
helpful
problem
just to get a little bit earlier notification on these types of cooperations. I think it's a great project, and I appreciate Natural Resources reaching out, but, we're given a week, and they've had it for a year.
I agree.
So
I
it just
totally
puts a
agree
little bit of
with you.
pressure on us that I think
That was my
we'd
first
prefer to,
thoughts when I received this email.
just to get a
Friday.
little more time to
Well,
take a
hopefully
look at
they
it.
didn't come to us a year ago and none of us can remember it.
They may have, but I don't remember it, but that's
I
just
wasn't
me.
here.
No, I
Yeah,
know.
We take no,
Well, what if
No
we,
responsibility.
Can I see that, Rick?
gave them their blessings and asked Kim to come, or Mark, or? what's her name?
they were
Melissa?
going to come, but Melissa is out today. And so she was supposed to be here tonight, but she's not, So I'll make a call, if that's okay, and say that we'd like them to come back in.
I'm just wondering why we want to hold up their start date
Yeah, I don't think we do.
when this is the same thing that we're doing with Chris Gobler and
I think it's a very
everybody
good
else.
project.
I agree. It's a good concept. We have familiarity with the
I
previous
mean, I would
project.
love them to come and explain it in more detail, but I
Right,
think
well,
the
that's what I'm
goals
asking.
are.
I'm saying, why don't I just call and say if we're in favor of it,
We're
we
not gonna
can.
meet for,
Yeah, we need to move on it tonight.
Yeah, we need, right.
Yeah.
We need to approve it.
Yeah.
Tonight, all
application.
right, well, then,
Yeah,
does
I'm
somebody
okay
want
with
to make
making
a motion?
I'd make a
Make a
motion to approve
it,
the
and I'll
project.
second it.
I mean, I'm sure they'll come in and do a
Let's invite them to
presentation.
come in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make that call.
Great.
I'll ask them to come in. So if you want to make a motion to
I'll make
approve,
a motion to approve the project.
and I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Waive the fee also,
Yeah,
unless
it's
you make a.
town project, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, I would waive the fee.
All right, and then we have another one that I'm not sure exactly why we got it. The Village of
vaping?
East Hampton is
Smoking?
looking to
It doesn't pertain to us
change their
because it's on.
smoking rules.
Apparently, everybody's vape now. High
Right,
school
they want to
kids.
include.
But they're not
Vaping.
saying it's on the beach, they're talking about.
In the
pavilion, right? Pavilion, so it has nothing to do with it.
There was a provision in some of the beach laws when we first,
But I
we
guess, I don't
introduced the new beach laws, that none of the laws could be changed without the approval of the
But
trustees.
this isn't on the beach.
But it's not on the
This is
beach.
in their building.
But it's
Yeah,
it's
they're
also
changing it on the
I
beach
think.
code.
No.
It says to all public village property for smoking and vaping
They're just dotting all their i's and crossing
No
their t's.
smoking or vaping in any buildings or on any decks.
at the main beach.
We're holding up their village,
But then it says we'll also
not
be
signing off on the
expanding.
beaches.
Francis,
Expanding it
says
to
will-
vaping.
Right, but it will be expanding its code to extend to all public village property. So it's not just Main Beach. It's all public.
I like a
village
good
It's not
cigar,
village-
so
it's
I'll
not
have
village
to.
property.
Well, it's not, the village doesn't own any of the beaches, so
Yeah, it's
that
not
doesn't
village
apply to the
property.
beaches at
property.
all.
Village,
Yeah.
The beach isn't village property. The beach is
beach-
trustee
no,
property.
well, I understand that, but I'm
Right.
saying village property. They're asking for us to agree to pass, for,
They
so
need
no
their property.
vaping and no smoking in
And
the
they're
village.
waiting for it
On their
On their
property.
property.
for the beach.
I guess it's
Well,
not
now
all.
we're being asked to just,
Why don't we just table it?
no skateboarding or
Should-
rollerblading.
Does anybody have any objection to them expanding their smoking law
On
No.
the
to include
pavilion?
vaping?
No.
And especially
Yes,
the
I
vaping.
do.
Except for Brian.
You don't vote.
Yeah,
No
I think they're taking away too many liberties. If you're gonna smoke, be considerate and go off.
Well, smoking, secondhand smoke cause problem, but does secondhand vaping cause problem? I don't know if it does. I think it dissipates into the air. I don't even know if it has a smell. I don't even know.
I have no idea.
Well,
but-
vaping is not very good
But
for
do we
your
care
health.
if they ban it from the pavilion
I don't wanna
at
vote.
Main Beach?
I don't think.
No, I'm not saying we have to vote. I'm saying, can we just say, it's your building, do what you want? That's personally how I feel.
Yeah, as long as they don't
Well, if the
try to
trustees are,
impose it on
They need written permission.
trustee property.
We don't want to see it expanded onto the
Yeah,
beach,
I'm gonna dissent from that
Yeah.
as well.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I
Next
don't
there'll
think
be,
we're voting.
next there'll be no
Right,
kissing.
but if, I'm not
Is that something
going to
that you
approve
indulge
that
in?
at all, to approve
Been a
the
while,
idea.
I have to admit.
Get rid of the garbage
No
cans,
telling
I'll
us
help you out.
Let's make a deal.
We'll support that.
Let's make a deal, right?
Okay.
so what are we doing about the vaping? You want to light
Table
up?
it.
Just
They
tell
want
them
written
it's,
permission.
it's their
Becky
building.
Molinaro.
We don't want to see it expanded onto the beach.
Okay, so we're denying them written permission. We have to give them.
I'll call.
Oh, you will.
Brian can smoke that cigar.
We're just going to say Francis will
Francis
handle
will
Doing
this.
it anyway. Bob,
Francis will handle this.
I'll call them tomorrow and
my
say,
only
Okay.
vice.
I think there's an issue with kids vaping. I think that's
the
probably
schools
where this
have
comes from.
Now, the
Problem
parents can
also.
Yeah.
parents can worry about their kids.
Vaping's down.
all right, next one is the East Hampton Fire Department.
What are we doing?
In the past, they send a letter and ask for permission to hold the annual fireworks display. They want to do it next Saturday, 25th, with a rain date of the 26th. It will be launched from an area adjacent to Hook Pond, commencing at 8:30. Okay. So it's an area adjacent to Hook Pond, east of the Sea Spray Cottages, and will be conducted in strict accordance with all applicable local, state, and federal codes and regulations.
Make a motion that we allow them to.
I have one thing to say about this.
Garbage.
First of all,
Yeah.
I do not want to discourage the use of fireworks and the whole fun about it. However, I've seen the aftermath of Ground Zero from when these fireworks are done, and it is an incredible mess. There's a lot of litter involved in fireworks. Now, just like any other litter, it can be cleaned up. So if these guys want a permit, I'm just gonna ask that perhaps we can just make sure that whoever's getting this permit is gonna be responsible to clean up the area of all debris. Not just what they can get to that night. They gotta come back in the morning during the daytime when they can see the damage that is caused.
There's never been a permit issued, it's always been a letter.
Okay.
asking.
So is there any way, though, we can ask them?
can ask them, sure.
To please
I'm sure they'd be more than happy to.
do whatever they can do? I mean, they've always done a great job. The performance is fantastic. But I just think now, as we're getting into this time, where we're being more concerned and more in touch with our environmental situation, I think we got to start looking at some of this stuff too. And I'm telling you, it really does cause, I was shocked
I
to
don't
see the
disagree
mess
with you.
that
I
it
think-
caused. I didn't even realize until somebody took me and
It's a
said,
lot of
look
garbage."
what happens here. And I was like, wow, wow. So, of course, they cleaned it up and it looked spotless. So I know that can be done as well, and I think that should be a priority when allowing this type of stuff. That's my opinion.
So when they do this at Boys Harbor off the barge, where does all that debris go?
A lot of times
water.
it goes on the beach, though.
Well,
We've
a lot of it
gotten
goes
calls
on
in
the
the
barge.
past, like little caps and paper and all related to the fireworks.
I do want to say that 2 years
Yeah.
ago, we did find a large pyrotechnic it did not
Unexploded.
detonate. We did call Shore Patrol. We found it during a beach cleanup. It was washed up right onto the beach, and it was live. It said right on the can, call the Navy, Coast Guard, or your local police immediately. We chose to call the police. Marine Patrol came down, took
Are
it,
you sure it
disposed
wasn't
of
the
it.
fireworks?
Oh, yeah, it had right on the side, it was,
Like Gucci's name on it?
no, it didn't have that. It said pyrotechnic
That could be a-
device.
That could be a flare.
You know, Bill, it could have been, actually. Yeah, it could have been, now that you mention that. I think, though, the Marine Patrol officer
I don't think-
said he didn't
no.
look familiar to him,
Yeah,
so
it's just, I don't think they put warnings like that on the side of pyrotechnics, mostly made in China. So,
yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
But anyhow,
I do have pictures of it. I'll
we want
sometime
it cleaned
personally, I'll
up,
show
no
it to you.
matter
It's
where
quite
it came
interesting.
from. We want it cleaned up.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You have a motion?
send out the letter with the, with Dell's piece about, being responsible for cleaning up any garbage. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Yep,
I agree.
I agree.
okay. So that's my motion.
Thank you.
I second it. Good one.
All in favor?
Aye. I have something to add on to the Accabonac Hog Creek new
Okay.
business, which came in, and it's from Accabonac Protection Committee. They are going to be holding free and open to the public a forum on, it's called Ticks, Facts, Fictions, and the Unknowns. And they
It's in
will-
agriculture.
It's in
on our-
agriculture?
it's on
Oh,
our agenda.
okay. All right, well,
Can
I'm
I-
ahead of myself.
Can I bring up something about Accabonac too? We were at the Fisherman's Forum Fisherman's Fair the other day. Someone approached me and was concerned that people seem to have been pulling their paddle boards adjacent to the kayak racks and locking them to the kayak racks, but they're sitting on the beach. And he says it's sort of obstructing the kayaks from, from being accessible. So he asked,
Well, we can have them removed.
we can do that, so could we
Yeah, the
approach?
Marine
Patrol?
Patrol, they oversee that.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just let them know, and they'll,
Yeah, it's an unpermitted,
yeah.
it's an unpermitted vessel. Todd.
Then maybe for next year, we can look at maybe introducing a paddleboard rack somewhere as a
Yeah,
starting
we
point,
I would
since
think,
they're so popular.
Yeah,
Or
everybody else is
something,
paying $200.
Or making some kind of
For the
sign
season,
to put on the kayak rack,
Some
not.
guy's looking for a freebie.
no, but we could put a specific kayak rack up at every place we have.
A paddleboard rack.
This was,
Paddleboard
I
rack,
think he was
yeah.
referring to Settlers Landing, right? This
No, it
person?
was Gerard, I'm pretty sure. it was
Gerard, all right, because
Gerard.
there's somebody else from Settlers Landing that
I've
approached
seen
me.
it.
at
I was down there the other
Fisherman's
day.
Fair.
The very thing you're talking about. Actually, I saw worse than that. I saw cinder blocks. And people
Yeah,
were
that's
putting
why we were trying to get away
I know,
from
cable
over there.
and locks and,
They were doing that
you know,
with kayaks.
if it's dark out and you trip over it, I mean, it's wrong. And I think we just need to let the marine guys
Sure.
know, and they'll take care of it.
Okay.
How many
40.
no, kayak racks are at Settlers Landing?
25.
25? Okay. There were this person who approached me asked about whether or not we could build more there.
We might be
Aren't
able
enough?
to. I mean, I think there's some room there. I put the ones kind of like rehabbed what was there. Yeah, there's room for some more if it gets maxed out, but we'll have to take a look at it.
Those racks weren't very popular for.
No, they weren't. No.
Well, speaking of kayak, I wasn't going to bring
But
this
they're
up
really
till later,
sexy
but
now.
somebody asked me if we had considered putting any at Babe's Lane. Because he had a kayak there, it was confiscated by Marine Patrol.
You know, there's a lot of
Tight
activity
spot.
going on
It
there.
is a tight spot, yeah.
That may not be our best choice.
Yeah, there's so much going on now with Babes. You know, we put up the split rail to protect the little kids. The moms
Got a
were
nice
asking.
compliment
Oh,
at
yeah.
Fisherman's Fair
Well,
about
that's,
that.
I mean, town code allows them to put them on the beach, but it can't be in the grass.
There's not much beach there.
There's not much.
A lot of
Yeah.
grass.
So.
Why don't we look at some
Carry
other
in,
sites
carry
in
out.
3 Mile? You know, why don't we talk about some additional sites
Your
that
kayak.
might work?
We've put these racks in place in reaction, really, to an
demand.
overabundance of boats being placed on the beaches into the grass,
Right.
so.
But I think there's maybe a couple of spots that might work.
Yeah, I think it's something that we should look into, maybe expanding the places.
There's a couple of sites on a few of the harbors that really could
Yeah,
use.
what about some of the
I think as people become
the
more.
waterfront
interested in
properties, the
kayaking
town just
too,
bought
the
down
water
there.
for-
More and more use of our waters.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
possibility.
Well, the more
Yeah.
reason
I
to
I think
keep
the
it
big
clean.
key is you need parking.
Well, that's the thing.
I think it's that the kayaks don't take up a lot of room, the cars
I
do.
know.
We'll talk about that some more, John, all right? Definitely, that's a good point.
Okay, Georgica Ponds, got a letter from Lori Wiltshire, Land Planning Services, to renew the trustee permit.
I had looked at that. It's right now before the village CBA. They haven't had an opportunity to go forward on the permit that we gave them, and that's expiring very shortly. We have extended in the past one time, so I would ask that we do that for Lori on this application. And she has given us, I believe, the $75 fee for the renewal, if that's okay.
Do we know why the work wasn't done?
Something being held up with the ZBA?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says they're waiting
It
for
could be
CBA
something
approval.
completely unrelated, because the core logs were pretty straightforward. That's just my opinion, what I remember. But I had asked Arlene about it prior to the meeting,
For
and the sense is
$75.
that it should conclude very shortly, and they'll be on target, so.
I have no problem supporting that, Brian. Maybe
Yeah.
at some point, though, we could just go down there and take a look and we haven't been down there in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think anything's changed, but yeah, that's fine.
I would second Brian's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Pump out boats. All right. Seems that we possibly have the need to hire a second part-time operator. Our full-time operator in 3 Mile Harbor may or may not have to leave. So the idea is to get this part-timer trained in order to take it over full-time if
How
it
long
does
does this
leave.
last for?
It's into
Till
end
October.
of September, October?
Bob Calder will be very happy about this.
Yeah, usually, I think,
Yeah,
around
I actually
Columbus Day.
spoke with him today, and we do have somebody that's dropping off an application tomorrow. And I think he'd be a good fit. He's from Montauk. His name is Brigham Inc. He served in the Coast Guard. He has his license, captain's license for 100-ton.
Is he willing to come to 3 Mile?
He probably would, on a part-time basis. The last 10 years, he's been a captain of a 64-foot sport fishing boat.
Great.
yacht. Local guy.
What's the
and-
name, Susan?
Brigham Inc. Briggs?
Briggs?
Inc.?
It's not a corporation?
No, no, no. That's his name. He goes by Briggs.
Yes, it's
Um,
Roxbury's,
Related to Roxbury,
Married to
married,
Kathy Roxbury.
Kathy.
Yes.
INK.
Well, let's get them on there.
ENCK.
yeah.
Okay. And we should probably start thinking about working on a grant application for a new boat, because the older boat is starting to show wear. So maybe we can,
Is there a grant,
well, we gotta see what Sea
Do
Grant's
we,
offering.
Do we need to make a,
Has the town got a grant
Writer?
writer?
Yeah, they do.
do we need to make a
Nicole.
motion to hire that third person?
Well, should we see his application first?
Wait,
Well, we
to
need,
get his
yeah, we can make a motion to
Hire
seek a
someone.
person.
Right,
Yes.
to hire a third
Right.
person.
Yes. So,
I'll
anybody
make-
want
I'll
to make
make
a
the
motion?
Then we
Motion.
can, I'll make a motion.
And
I'll
a
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And this is just to get the conversation started on the new pump-out boat, so.
Right.
We
Yeah.
need to seek out grants. I think the last two were through Sea Grant. weren't
Yeah,
they?
Are
let's
we,
grant.
are we able to use any CPF money for a purchase of a, since it's
I
a
don't know.
waterway?
We
You know,
haven't-
there's probably a lot of grant opportunities on the state and federal level.
We can look into that.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I
CPF
don't-
money is available to a board of trustees, though. Is it?
I don't know. Town board uses it to buy property, so.
Yeah, no, there's also.
But we did put
some of it can be
20%
used
aside
for water
for
quality
water.
projects.
Yeah, it's water quality.
You know,
I think what
It's
we
not
have to do
necessarily
is put
trustee.
together a project and submit it to that committee.
yeah. That's
Well, but I
probably,
mean, the grants that have been used to buy boats in the past have been grants
they've been,
made
they're
by
from the
the
federal government.
trustees,
There's,
not the town.
there's like a motor fuel
Right.
tax or something
Right,
like that. There's always money in it.
Trustees submitted grant applications,
Right.
yes.
And the Fed, you know, there's a regular program. We could look and see if that's still active.
And what's happened is that program afterwards has continued to reimburse us for the.
We get money from every year.
Maybe the trustees could make an application to the town
Mhm.
through the
I think it'd be
CPF.
an
process.
interesting attempt to try to get it
No, I
through
mean,
the CPF.
It seems to fit into the
But
criteria.
we just know that we have to put together a completed project.
We want to start
and
looking
submit
around
it
for a new
review
boat.
and see how
It is
that-
about water quality,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think it might, you know, I sit on that committee.
may
so I
work.
shouldn't-
If you don't ask, you'll never know, right?
All right.
I can see where it might fit.
So
I'm glad to
who
hear we're
wants to
getting.
be on that committee?
I think the pump out people are on it.
You.
Susie, myself, Bill.
I was out there today.
You guys want to put together
Kidding me?
Yeah, let's look at all possibilities.
project
Yeah,
applications for
There's a lot of
CPF?
them out there, you know?
Shellfish hatchery and bring.
And it might take a year, so let's get started.
Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah, well, we don't
gotta
need it
start
tomorrow,
sometime.
so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, but if it could be around for spring, it would be.
How about D?
Get something together.
How about D?
All right, old business. The only thing I have was Georgia Capons and Bruce has come and gone. Committee reports, Accabonac Creek,
Yes.
a request.
Oh.
Do you have this?
I do, yes.
it-
Susan and I, and you, and I have some pictures, which, by the way, I will just say that when I called Katie, she said, go over right away. I said, are the homeowners there? I was leaving to go home, and so I jumped up there. That's how that took place. And we can all go whenever we are available, but these are the pictures. I'll pass them around. They did a very nice job in revegetation, which is the issue. The boardwalk had already
That
been
was the place we looked at a
closed.
long time ago.
Yes,
Yeah, we-
and it was all naked,
Wow.
you know, and they really did a nice planting.
The town had
Where
an
is
issue
this?
with the type of
This
grass.
is 217
Yeah, remember we met out there?
Kings Point Road, Connolly.
Okay.
I'll pass those to you.
That was back in the spring.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, this was all sand and open, and planted tons of seagrass
Yeah, it's really,
all the way down. Yep, the whole thing is covered.
yeah, they didn't, what do you call it? They didn't skimp.
They didn't skimp
No.
on the
No.
beach grass.
No, they did, that's
No.
great.
It's beautiful.
Looks really nice. I bet it looks nice, and a nice breeze blowing through there, and Good for me.
And there was a deer there.
Don't tell
I-
anybody.
Okay, so they're
When I-
looking to close,
They're looking to close this part of the application. Do you, anybody else down there, Susan? I'm sure you, Bill?
Thank you.
Yes, they want to close this part of the application. They have already closed the deck that's been approved, so they did a good job. Very nice
Okay.
job.
So does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to close out 217 Connolly and close out the permit for revegetation.
Okay, with the as-built survey's been submitted, so everything's there.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Okay, aquaculture, Accabonac Harbor mosquito larvae.
Well, I'll just say that it was a very lovely day today, in the rain. This is the second to last scheduled mosquito larvae testing. And it seems that we're finding the hot spots in the same places every week. I took some pictures that were interesting today of the larvae in the cup, bouncing around, and I had one full cup of black bouncing around. Our teams have been very well organized, thanks to John. And I have to say, those bad elves are terrific. They're really great, so it was a wonderful investment for all of us.
If the technology works, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it was, right away, we could just go back to Springs General Store, punch in, send, and everything goes right to Vector.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we got a map back. We get a map every day, and I report to Accabonac Protection Committee and let them know today, this afternoon, where the spraying will be focused. And it is focused and targeted toward the hot spots, which is vastly different than what it used to be, apparently.
The
So
blanket spraying.
people are very happy. They came up to us at the Fisherman's Fair, people who, live on Accabonac, and thrilled that this is happening the way it is happening. It's been a wonderful experience. We lost somebody today. She's going back to school, but we.
That time of year.
I know, but John, I'm going to let you take over and report. Nothing to say.
So
Nothing.
we did find mosquitoes, larvae.
Yeah, last weekend it was
Larger mosquito
brutally
larvae.
hot, and it was no wind, and black flies and mosquitoes, but today was a nice change of pace, even though it rained. We looked
I
like
think
little
it's the heat and the
red
rain,
This
I have
is
this-
time of
Getting
year.
into the
business,
I have this
yeah,
vision of
really
like
active season.
Casablanca, I think, where Bogart's pulling
Yeah,
Hepburn,
yeah.
and you're in the boat, and John's pulling you through the marsh, and you're collecting
African
samples.
Queen.
That's right.
African Queen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Of
That's
course.
funny.
Miss Morgan, you must stop drinking so much.
Oh, that
I
was
think,
good.
I think we're making progress toward the ultimate goal, though, one of the ultimate goals, which is identifying the spots and then coming up with a plan to perhaps rectify the conditions that are making them hotspots.
Pooling of water or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
draining water out of
We could get,
pools.
maybe we
or
could get a,
regrading or
maybe they'll agree to do spot spraying too. If we can get it identified enough.
possibly, yeah. I'm not sure what their resources are. But, yeah, there will be consideration for how much helicopter time and mass quantities of material that has to be dropped out of helicopters would be offset by, more targeted,
Yeah,
small-scale spraying.
I mean, if it's a small scale thing, it's probably gonna be just as effective if you have the spots identified well enough.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening now, so it's I feel very good about what we've been doing, and it's been a learning experience for me,
It's fun out there though.
which I've enjoyed.
It's an interesting place to wander around.
Oh, it's beautiful, it really is beautiful. And again, lovely to see the fawns leaping.
Leaping.
Yes, they do, they run across the salt marsh just to jump out of their bed,
Okay.
sleeping area.
Did you mention earlier this tick farm?
Yes, I was going, yes. This is Accabonac Protection Committee, and I'm a member and service liaison for it. They will be holding this at Ashwell Hall on August 20th. It's called Ticks, Facts, Fictions, and the Unknowns, and they have various different speakers coming. which I won't go through the whole list, but there'll be a question and answer period with the audience. Zach Cohen is going to be the moderator. He is the Suffolk County Tick Control Advisory Committee, I guess, chair. And Edwina Von Gaal will be there with Dr. Christine Ganich, who are both obviously their residents and members of Academic Protection Committee. The speakers will include science and biology of ticks, Dr. Tamsin Ye of Cornell Cooperative Extension, medical science of tick-borne disease with Dr. Anne Marie Wellens, advisory panel of the Regional Tick-Borne Disease Resource Center at Stony Brook Southampton Hospital, and eco-friendly and chemical tick controls. That will be with Sean O'Neill of the Peconic Baykeeper and pesticide expert. So that's August 20th, and the time is 5:30 p.m. And then the panel will begin to speak at 6 p.m. Free to the public.
Okay.
All right.
All right, beaches. Del, you want to do an update?
I do. I would like to just read this, please. I'll try to read it quickly. I have been checking the beaches every morning. The issue with the trash cans have been continuing to cause issues as far as I'm concerned. And I'd like to read this. Beaches have been taking another summer of abuse from trash and litter. I've been documenting it again, as I've been doing for the past 6 years with video and photographs, many of which come from community members that also use the beaches before the crews get a chance to clean up from the previous night of chaos. The trash cans that the village insists on putting directly on the beaches are equally, if not more damaging, than folks who just leave their trash on the beaches due to ignorance or just plain disregard. Trash cans are dumping stations. That's what they are. They're nothing more. They are historically placed at the beachheads. That's where the beach meets the parking area, so that folks will dispose of their waste off the beaches. Common sense. The landscape or dunes on each side of this area, where the beach meets the road, protects the trash and debris from winds and even traps litter in the beach grass for easy removal. Trash cans at our beach heads have been abused for a very long time. After the last dumping of the night, they fill up quickly, just like they do in the daytime. However, now there's no one to empty them until the morning. A great comparison would be to imagine what it would look like if the cans were not emptied all day. Well, during the summertime in the Hamptons, the beaches are like casinos. They're open day and they're open at night, and they get used at night just as they would during the day, only with less to no supervision and no trash removal. The cans have become widely known as dumping stations for those who do not want to pay a fee to dump their litter or household belongings, hazardous materials, personal waste. Egypt Beach trash can last year I saw had contained weeks of used medical tubing from a dialysis machine, and that included the IV needles. It's long-standing common knowledge when the right time is to dump your crap at the beach. Everyone knows when they're supposed to go do it, when those beaches aren't being watched. There is little to no enforcement stopping folks from doing so. Once these cans are full, folks continue to stuff and pile trash in and on top until they are left with no other choice but to place their trash, sometimes bagged, sometimes not, all around the overflowing trash receptacles on the ground. Folks are literally being forced to litter, because if you have a full receptacle that is now non-functionable and useless, and folks are placing their trash outside the receptacle, that's called littering. Doesn't matter how good or bad a job the crews are doing picking this crap up. Littering is littering, and if you're going to change the parameters of littering to benefit those that are doing the littering, then you're accommodating litter, not the solution. So you have these overflowing dumping stations that are managed during the day and not at all during the evening. And for some reason, the village thinks it would be a better idea to move those dumping stations onto the actual beach, closer to the water, away from the wind-breaking dunes, and right out in the open on the sand. Now, I'm not sure if a permit or permission was needed from the trustees to allow the village to jeopardize the public's beaches with their ridiculous idea of putting trash cans on the beach, but I'm suspecting not. I really wonder if that's the case. Did they have to get a permit to put trash cans on the beach, or are they just doing it at free will without our say-so? Now the trash is even more vulnerable on the beach to seagulls and other wildlife that pull the debris from the cans or simply rip into the bagged waste set around the cans. Immediately, this becomes not only unhealthy and low nutrition for our wildlife, but it gets spread about the area and easily transported down the beach or into the ocean with a simple breeze. A heavy wind could create an even worse environmental burden to our beaches and water, and often does. There really isn't anything good about having trash cans on the beach, environmentally or ecologically. Morally, it should be quite obvious. Our beaches should not be used as locations for dumping stations to dump. That should be kept off the beach. One comment was made about the cans being more convenient to the beach patrons, so they didn't have to walk to the parking area to dispose of their trash. I find that promoting laziness rather than proper stewardship of our beaches and ocean. It shouldn't be considered trouble to have to collect your daily trash in a small bag or container of sorts. Then, when you go to the restroom or your vehicle to buy a snack or just to leave the beach, you can dispose of your waste at that time in the receptacles off the beach. That's called carry in, carry out, a program that is being introduced around the rest of the town. I find it very confusing and contradicting to do the exact opposite on the public beaches that the village uses. Again, it's common sense issue. At the very least, remove the cans from the beach at night when no one is available to monitor or empty them. The only one paying is our beaches, our oceans, and the volunteers trying to keep up with cleaning this crap up faster than it's created. It's unanimous to me and the dozens of volunteers who help me each year clean the beaches that the trash cans are working against us and supporting the problem rather than the solution. And here's one quick great example how the cans promote laziness. This was sent to me the other day in an email from somebody who was actually trying to convince me that this was the right thing to do. Though they're nice to have around when I go for a walk on the beach and pick up litter that I would be less inclined to pick up if I had to put it in my car to take home or throw away. Boy, I loved when I got that email because it was the greatest example of what I've been saying all along. It's promoting laziness. Couldn't have had a better example. Put the trash cans anywhere, everywhere, so folks don't have to deal with walking to a trash can to dispose of their waste. It's really insanity. A couple years ago, I asked the trustees to support me with having the cans removed. 8 members voted in my favor, 1 did not. However, there are many a slip between the cup and a lip, as we say in the Old West. And from what I was told by a former trustee, the village basically told the trustees, no, the cans stay. That's almost the same line I got from the former beach manager when I met with him at the beginning of this summer. I was told I was beating a dead horse and the mayor would not entertain me in regards to the trash can issue. So excuse me for getting a bit angry when I first brought this subject up, but I'm not going to accept that as an answer, and I'm not going to stop fighting to get the trash cans off the beach. If I do, the next thing they'll be wanting to do is put floating cans in the friggin' ocean to accommodate the swimmers. Okay? So with the trustees' help, excluding me and any others who get the big picture, the village was once again able to abuse our beaches with their dumping stations. The trustees say that maybe next year they can do a pilot program, which to me sounds just as ridiculous as putting the cans as the beach. You have beaches on both sides of the village beaches. They're the same beach. All those beaches, like Indian Wells, Atlantic Beach, Nappig, Kirk, Ditch, all of them, all the Bay beaches even, they are all the same beach. You want a pilot program? It's been in effect for years. In fact, the pilot program was putting the dumping stations on the beach to begin with, and it proved a failure. The data is clear. They aid the problem and not the solution to beach trash and litter. It's bad, and they need to all be removed immediately. By doing it today makes no difference on any level of thinking. You simply remove them. People are not going to spontaneously combust or fall into a panic state if you take these trash cans off the beach. They are only going to be forced to do the right and proper thing and start a better and more sensible precedent. And I can't tell you how important that precedent is to our youth today. Show them how to make a shortcut and suffer the consequences, or show them how to use common sense and save our beaches, our environment, and the world. With that said, I want to make a motion now to have Chris write a letter to the village, a letter asking them to remove the trash cans from the beaches now and forever. I don't suspect this to pass tonight, but it is important that the public witness my attempt and see who the people are that prefer to support and benefit the problem and those who support the solution. Can I get a second?
Second.
Third.
Anybody in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those not in favor?
I think we should have some discussion, actually.
Can we do
Yeah,
that?
I'd like to, can we talk
'Cause
a little bit about it, though?
Well, I think we've talked about it.
Well, the protocol is that we're entitled to discuss the motion.
Well, go to it.
Yeah, I want
thank
to talk
you.
about one of the points you brought up in the letter that I found really interesting, was the basis for the cans originally going on the beach. And tonight we received a letter for request of approval about vaping in a village building. And is there an opportunity for us to look back a little bit into the records? And was there a cooperation between the village and the trustees to put the cans on the beach, which, in my understanding, would have been required if we are to be working together with the village on different matters like this? And if that was overlooked, perhaps that should be revisited, which I think would provide a lot of traction to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find anything.
So I would just like to ask, before we vote on this, that we just clarify that issue, because I think it would be really helpful to, know where that part of it stands.
I understand what Rick is saying.
I understand
think that's a very
too.
valid point.
I understand too, but I think the cans are on the beach. They're gonna be on there till the end of the season. And I don't think we should wait. The cans are bad. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you pick this apart, I can't imagine anyone agrees that those trash cans are not creating a worst-case scenario than bettering the scenario. They're dumping stations.
No,
You
I believe
place
in
them
carry
on
and
a
carry out.
beach.
I think carry and carry out is the way we should be moving.
Right.
And I don't think that this in any way helps that. So I agree with the concept of what you're trying to do. I just want us to follow a procedure that's going to bear fruit, so to speak. I'd rather have a communication that's based on, the code and agreements that have been reached with the village over time, and send a communication that's going to be effective. And I think taking that one step may really help to create a more effective communication.
So where would we find that information? Would it be in the
Have to
trustee
go back through the
file?
records.
Well, like I said, from the research that I've done so far, there is no record.
Okay.
And again,
So I'd just like to.
discuss and pick this apart all you can. And listen, again, I'm not expecting this to happen. I'm just saying it should happen. It should happen tomorrow. Okay, these things should be removed tomorrow. So that's why I'm sticking to my guns, not expecting that to happen. But I want somebody to take. I want us as a board, stewards of the beaches. I want us to make a decision, not based on how I went about doing this, not based on the struggle I've had trying to get this done over the past 6 years. I think it's clear. They're trash cans. They're on the beach. Let's get them off. Done. Boom. The village are the only ones doing it. And the village the public beaches that the village are using are the ones that are the worst every morning when I go to take pictures. And not only are they the worst, they're despicable and disgusting.
Well, I would just ask if we could, for the next 2 weeks, to just do a little more research into this, to understand whether or not there was the appropriate cooperation between the trustees and the village before the cans went on the beach.
I think that's a prudent thing to do.
And get Chris involved a little bit to double check that and double check how the code is supposed to work. And, you know, I would like to try and get my head wrapped around what you're saying, Dale. You're bringing this up fresh in terms of emotion, and usually we have a little bit of time to you know, get everyone to.
Well, I think we've been discussing it. We've discussed this at length at several meetings, and this is something I brought to the trustees' attention 2 years ago, had full support from the board. One day, the next day, mysteriously, everybody's jumping in different directions.
I was on
with
the
no
board 2 years
explanation
ago,
to
I
me.
recall
In
that.
fact, you were both
No
in
way.
agreement
No
when
way.
we took the vote.
No way.
Yeah, well, I got 8 votes.
Okay, pull it up
Who
on the
else weren't
records.
there?
I wasn't on the board when you came.
Well, you weren't.
No.
You weren't, Francis.
That's
Okay.
right, but that's what I said.
Okay,
It was 3
well,
years ago.
then I
It was
apologize
3
for that.
years
I
ago.
assumed you
years
were.
ago. No,
I
it was
did.
3
It was your
years.
brother. And I
Oh,
apologize.
please don't do that.
I know,
I'm
no,
kidding.
I
I'm
didn't mean
kidding.
that either.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
But Bill, you were there.
We
And
had-
at the time,
we had
you agreed.
discussions, we had discussions with the village.
And I know about the discussions. And
And
I know
I
how they
think-
went.
You know, how would you feel if we could get them to move with the last pickup of the day,
That's what I asked from the
put
beginning.
them on the top of the beach?
That's what
right
I
where they
said
are.
from the beginning. You know what they told me? We weighted them down. That's too heavy for them to do at the end of the day.
Should buy a thing to lift them up with.
They told us that they put a handful of sand in the bag to keep the bag from blowing up.
Yeah, well,
That's not weighted.
Ed McDonald told me they were leaded down,
Right.
and it would be
Yes.
too much trouble to have the guys pull them off the beach at night. It'd be too much of a hassle.
Why don't we talk to them for 2 weeks? Why don't you table it?
I just want to chime in here and say that I've done cleanups with Dell, and I have my buckets and I've got my grabbers, and I will tell you that absolutely, no question, people do put their garbage around in the early
Nobody's
mornings.
arguing that.
Yeah,
No,
no.
well, I'm
We
just
all
saying.
agree.
Very
I'm
well
just-
documented.
I
Okay,
appreciate
all
it.
right,
A lot
I'm
of
just
work and a lot of good work.
chiming
Yeah,
in.
I just-
Unfortunately,
I hear you
Del,
100%.
if you
I
recall,
can't-
They are.
the last
they do
time we
make it easier
discussed
for people
this,
to leave their trash
we
there
were,
when they're on
we
the
were in a
beach.
very bad situation because of a tirade that you had going.
Right, right.
And
Not the first time either, Francis.
No, it's
I've been
not.
having
It's
these
not,
tirades
but
through the
I
year
understand
because I'm
that,
getting no
but-
satisfaction.
But you can't, you can do that all you like,
Mm-hmm.
but then to ask the board to support that kind of behavior, we said we can't.
It's not the behavior I'm asking you to support. I'm asking you to support the getting the cans off the beach. And this is, you're not a board sitting here to dictate punishment on me.
It's not punishment at all.
You're here dictating the
It's not
stewardship
punishment.
of our beaches.
It's not punishment.
Get the trash cans off the beach.
It's the process of how you get from A to B.
It doesn't matter. The process
Well, it
is
does.
pick the can up, get it off the beach. That's the process.
My concern is that this has kind of become a test of wills.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see something move forward, but
I mean,
I don't
we-
think this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, what isn't the way to do it?
You know, the
What
village,
isn't the way to do it?
This my way or the highway.
the
Well,
village,
what's the other, this isn't for me, this is for the environment. This is for the
No.
beaches.
I'm only asking
If
for
we
two
dig,
weeks.
if you dig
The
your
long
heels in,
haul.
they seem to be digging their heels in. I'd like to see this compromise, which you don't like.
No, I'll
of
compromise,
trying-
but you're asking me to compromise and them not to do anything.
No, I'm asking them to do something. I'd like to see.
They're not going to do
I'd
anything.
like to see a side-by-side to show them, to prove your point to them.
Well, I've been talking about this
To bring the
on several
cans up to the
occasions. Where are
parking
they?
lot, move the cans back to the parking lot where they used to be at, say, Egypt, and
Right.
leave them down on the beach at Wyborg. Same beach, same parking area, same beach scene,
Yeah.
same night, day
Right.
situation.
What's so difficult?
Okay, so they can see, oh, look, Egypt is not trashed in the morning, and Wyborg
Well, why can't you
is.
just look at Indian
Any other
Wells?
beach? I'm just-
Why can't you look at Atlantic Avenue?
Because it's become a test of wills between who's gonna dictate this, the village or the trustees. And I'm,
But does the village have management rights on the beaches?
I'm
That's-
just saying,
That's what I
Bill,
want to research. I
seems
want
to
to
me
clarify that
become
a
a
little
test
bit.
of
It's
wills.
supposed to be a joint cooperation, and we're not sure whether the procedure was followed for this, and I think it will behoove your case.
That's
to
fine.
clarify
We
that.
can
If you
do
could
that,
Just give
but
me the
it-
courtesy of the 2 weeks. I'd love to help
Absolutely.
get this going.
I understand that part, and I agree with it, and I'll go for it. But it still seems that there's a problem with my aggressive approach at this, without the understanding of how long I've been chewing at the bit on this, okay? This has been going on for too long, okay? And it's caused a lot of problems with my volunteers, with the beach trash.
My only point, Del, is that if everybody digs their heels in, nothing moves forward. If there can be some accommodation on both sides, maybe something can move forward. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's the way I feel.
I think what Rick is saying too is just make sure that you have the right papers or no papers, which would, and he,
Further builds
doing,
the case.
doing the preliminary work that Rick is suggesting, it's 2 weeks, and then I think we need to address this and go about it in a calm way and move forward in a calm way. And it is a very important issue. Nobody here at this table or in this community wants garbage on the beach. We all agree.
Yeah, it
But
sounds
I
like
think,
the mosquito program that's going on.
Yeah,
We're
I
starting to
mean-
finally see results. It took a
Yeah,
long
people are responding.
time and
There
hard
are people who-
feelings,
yeah.
and now we're seeing results, and I think we're gonna get there.
Del, if you want the trustee attorney to draft a letter to the East Hampton Town Village, then some of their points are well taken, that for me to write a letter regarding this topic, I would feel much better to have a historical approach of, on such and such year, on this date, we tried this pilot program. On this date, we worked together to work out, like, I need, as an attorney in a legal drafting respect, some sort of way to go back and document where we're at and where we want to go, as opposed to just writing this opinion letter that we need them off the beach, and they're gonna take the letter, they're gonna read it, and that's gonna be it, so.
I don't find this as being an opinion letter. I think it's so common sense. I mean, we're sitting here discussing.
common sense letter
We're
from
sitting
the
here
trustees.
discussing a carbon footprint and this long, big discussion banging our heads against the wind farm and solar energy and all this stuff. We can't even agree to get the garbage cans off the beach. These are sources of litter. They shouldn't be on the beach. They're dumping stations. It's common sense. There shouldn't be digging of any heels. We should stand up as stewards of the beaches and say, look, this is common sense. Trash does not, receptacles do not belong on the beach for an area for the general public who does what they damn well please at any time, setting their garbage wherever they want to, trying to shortcut and not have to spend $1 to bring it to the dump, and we pay for it. Our beaches pay for it. I say, get them off the beach. Common sense. This isn't an opinion. This is common sense.
I agree with you, and in that respect, it's not a legal letter.
No digging in
Get the
heels.
motion and pass it.
We manage the beach. Let's get the garbage aspect off the beach. Be stewards and say, village, please, please, get these cans off our beaches because it's making a mess. Look at it, Indian Wells over here. Look at the beaches over in Wainscott where they don't have garbage cans on the beach. There's your pilot program. Get the stupid things off the beach and stop being knuckleheads. All right? Because really, they're just fighting me. Just like I think you guys are sometimes. I don't understand it. It's not my opinion. This is common sense. You know where to put trash. You bring it to a dump. You don't drop it off at the beach. And people are. And you gotta make it stop. And this has nothing to do with the crews that are cleaning it up. They're all doing a good job, if that's what they gotta hear. You're all doing a good job. But you're not doing a good job enough, because I'm still out there every morning picking crap off the beach. So you wanna impress me? Get the damn cans off the beach. And if you think this is another rant, it's not. I'm getting fed up with this, guys. Come on. Come on, you're not out there with me every morning for the past 8 years. You're not. I'm out there. I don't see you. Okay? If you come down there, you'll see me picking up filth of everyone else. And all I'm asking this board is to get those stupid cans off the beach and make a volunteer's life a little bit easier. You owe us that. You owe us that, because we don't get paid to do this. We're doing the job for the town who gets paid to do it. All right? And I want something back. I want something back. I do. Okay. That's my rant for this week. It wasn't as bad as the last one. So, but we'll hear another one next time, because I'll be ready. Maybe we'll have a slideshow.
And we gotta do some homework between now and then.
And we will.
Very good.
Okay, see, we had the Georgia Ponds with Bruce, education, Fisherman's Fair.
Wait, before we go any further, you're gonna have to, I guess, Dell, rescind your motion for now, because that's still on the floor.
I want to leave my motion open, actually. I got a second.
we voted.
We already saw who's
voted.
for it
Okay,
and who's against
all right.
it.
No, it's been voted.
All right.
That's
was-
all
was
I
a little
really wanted to
confused.
see.
Okay. You got it.
Fisherman's Fair,
Well, now we switch to balloons and and getting rid of them.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so the Fisherman's Fair, I want to thank John publicly for working with me on this day, on the rainy day, bringing up the shellfish hatchery equipment. And we had a live table of scallops going and the spider crab, yes? I called it a rock crab. But he brought up things from the shellfish hatchery, and the kids loved it, and everybody loved it, and we put up the big tent. The tent is great. And we sold T-shirts all day long, and they did very well, I'm pleased to say. We have 30 more T-shirts that we can order that were already approved in our last vote. And I'm wearing my T-shirt tonight. See?
Very nice.
Yep, and on the back is our logo, and some a dolphin and a whale. And so if anybody wants to buy a T-shirt to help
When are they
support
coming
the
in?
Captain Rice Scholarship
Oh,
Fund.
do we have?
she was selling them at the.
Yes.
No, I mean, I thought you ran out.
No, we didn't run out yet. We
Are
don't
they
have,
at the trustee's office?
yes, they are.
What's
I
the
have
price?
15 for children, 20 for adults, 100% cotton. I made sure we had cotton, so it's pure,
That's a good company.
right? And I want to thank Lori and Arlene for both contributing to this effort in helping in the design and getting it ordered. And without you, we could not have gotten it done. Lori, if you're watching. But I'm very pleased with the T-shirt. Everybody seemed to love it and love the message of it. Save a fish and end balloon pollution. I made this big fish, as you saw. You held it up for me. I had it framed. I brought it up to the
I
tent.
saw that. Thought you were gonna sell it or auction it
No,
off.
I wanted to. I know I wanted to
It
show
looked
what
really
it
cool. It
was.
was like in a shadow box.
Oh, yeah, I had it framed at
was pretty cool.
BJS Studio.
More than one person wanted to buy it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I looked at it. I saw it. I said, that looks pretty cool.
The LVIS wanted me to sell it at their fair, but I said no. So, so we're gonna, hopefully we'll continue on with it and offer it at the clam bake, the clam contest. And we, in total right now, how much? $700 and some odd we raised, and so that's not bad.
Very nice.
For a simple little T-shirt.
When are you gonna get the larges back in?
Excuse me?
You gonna get the larges in soon?
Yes, we're gonna order
Yes.
10 larges
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
10 medium.
We only were able to order 70 of the 100 that we
Right
authorized.
now, we
yeah,
don't have
'cause
any
of the-
larges left. We have extra large.
Slacking on
We have extra larges,
My
we've got
extra
kids,
What do you know,
small,
two?
medium, and large. Now, if you're a small person, you can wear a large child's, if you're a slight, build or something. But if any of you have grandchildren or children and you want to. So, we had a very good day. And again, thank you very much, John, and his family, his grandchildren came up and helped, and Gail, his wife. So thank you, John.
Good job. Both of you.
All right, Roads Committee, trustee Rhodes.
Susan and I met and had a good conversation regarding the Merchants Path issues. Came up with a pretty good game plan to what needs to be addressed immediately, which is gonna be 136, 140, and 146 Merchants Path. Gonna, send a letter and start addressing those right away. In the meantime, 275 Town Line Road, 149 Merchants Path, and one other address we're gonna do some more research on. And I think we have I have a better understanding now of what the issues are there, and hopefully we can get that straightened out pretty quickly. Also going to look at the Trustee Road near Collingsworth now, which is the one with all the gravel on it. I'm gonna reach out to Southampton Town Trustees to see if they gave any type of acquiescence or permitting or agreement to the gravel. I'm gonna guess that they did not, but it's a good place to start. And then go from there regarding the gravel on that Trustee Road by Collingsworth. So, good meeting with Susan and I, and my take is on it is we have a good path going forward of how to resolve the issues. Susan, didn't mean to take that from you, but
No.
that was my take on it.
Good job. Yeah, we did, and we're gonna try and get Dell and Rick, we wanna maybe try and set up a meeting for this week or next week on that 20 Bull Run.
Anytime this
So,
week.
yeah,
let me know.
we'll coordinate something. We'll
Yep.
talk after, so.
Yep. And then,
that
you know,
started.
we have been kicking around the idea of possibly a specific trustee roads application or permit. I think the issue over on Merchants Path accentuates the need for the trustees to weigh in on people's plans to revegetate or make improvements, as it can become a public safety issue if someone is not thoughtful about where they put a fence, plant white pine trees to create a screen, and then you see a situation where safety vehicles can't get down a road. So I think it's important that the trustees do weigh in, and if people do want to make such improvements, that they submit an application. And I'd like to discuss further with the board whether our general permit application is appropriate, or if there should be one that's a little more specific.
What does that
Well, I
mean?
think we do
Make 'em-
easements. We don't do permit.
Well, for something like a revegetation, you know,
But
does
that
that
would be-
warrant an easement, or is that?
Could we require a permit for them to do revegetation on their own property?
No, on our property. If they're within the roadbed, it's approximately 3 rod wide. Oftentimes, you'll have a blacktop section and a non-improved section. It's, you know,
But
called
don't
the
we wanna
trustee
leave
road, but it's
that
real estate.
Why would we allow anybody to do something in that section?
Right.
Well,
Be
it's,
like
it's being done already. You know, there is an example of it on a certain road, Edwards Hall Road, where there was pine beetle infestation, and members of the public have taken it upon themselves to do some plantings there
In the right-of-way.
in the trustee property. So it's trustee property, you
But
wanna
you
call it a
need to do a
road.
survey to be sure that's trustee property. I mean, that's a blacktop road. It's a certain width. I don't know what that width is. Do you?
The neighbors have, in certain areas there, the neighbors have recently surveyed it, and it's clear where the stakes are.
Mhm.
So, you know, again, I'm just looking at it
When-
from the perspective
when
of
we
on
give-
Merchants Path, we have now a safety issue,
Yeah.
where we have the same discussion possibly, Francis, how far
Right.
back are people gonna move it? The property owners know where their property lines are, they've been a little generous in some instances,
Who
and they're
maintains that-
pushing
Who maintains that road?
the people that have an easement over it to get to their houses. On all trustee roads, if you want to be granted permission to access a piece of property that's landlocked, you typically take responsibility for any improvements of the roadbed. But it doesn't mean that you can just put a
Yeah.
fence up and
Yeah.
pinch the road.
Don't we give people certain abilities to, like, if we give somebody an easement, don't we let them bring it up to road specifications if they want?
I believe so, but there's there's many easements out there.
I know. No,
So
but
it
I
is a little
mean,
tricky to interpret
So you gotta
that.
look at the specific, if we.
The specifics of the easements that
If
are
the
in
easement lets
place.
somebody bring something up to town road specs, they might actually be able to clear it to, 50 feet.
Most of those easements, like the driveway easements, they're only allowed to improve that driveway, up to
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
is, 18 feet or whatever, 20 feet, that actual driveway.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's different easements,
Not the roadway,
yeah.
not the trustee roadway. Their actual easements, they're allowed to improve.
Well, but I've read easements that include the right for them to improve the road with notification.
Right.
Some, I think, are.
Yeah.
But still, I think a good point, I think it was brought up, that we do need to get some sort of a permit or some permission process going, because if a homeowner is under the impression that they're able to improve a certain area, a certain part of their road or the whole road, whatever the case, who regulates how far they can go with that improvement? I mean,
Well, I wonder, I mean, there's two ways of looking at this. Either you would case by case give permits and just decide what's to be done in that case. Or on the other hand, you establish a policy. And then people come in and apply to do something within that policy. I think that would be a lot easier, because now we're setting a policy and people sort of have to comply with our standards, as opposed to having all these different.
Well, that's a good point, John. You know, looking back at all the different trustee roads, there are a variety of easements that are in place. So sometimes you may get a situational basis that you have to look at.
I know, I understand
And
that.
the
I'm talking
idea of-
really about from here.
Yeah, and the idea of looking at maybe crafting a specific permit was along the lines of your second point. So, you know, it's something we may want to talk about some more, but the issue on Merchant Path, I think, brought this to a little higher level of concern.
but this can happen anywhere. I mean, any
someone
road
just chose to put
can be
fencing
pinched
up.
off, and a fire truck may not be able to access it due to an
Aggressive
unpermitted
planting. Yeah. Improvement.
Well,
improvement.
Isn't that illegal to do?
Well,
I mean, the fire department will say, we are not gonna come down your driveway if we can't get
but there's
through.
also,
I'm not gonna we won't put the fire out. But you can actually, it's illegal to have a driveway that's too small for a fire engine to
well,
go.
there is a code enforcement component to this, but there's also a trustee oversight issue to this. So there's really two issues that people may have to deal with when they do this. But just as a matter of policy, I think we should be involved in overseeing any planned improvements. And this pine beetle
Well, that's the
situation
key
created a
question, is
new
improvement.
scenario that we hadn't dealt with before.
Because trustee roads shouldn't be improved, they should be
Maintained.
maintained.
That's how the
But-
easements are written typically.
Right.
Can you talk to the issue
I have
of
a
the
problem
pine
with that
beetle
word
situation?
improved.
in the-
Yeah.
Tell us
Well, but
what,
if you've got a road
because I-
that's narrow, and that's the way it always was, and that's the way it's gonna be maintained, and now you're allowing houses to be built along it, and then you have to deal with the fire truck issue, you sort of are forced to improve it. You're forced to cut
Well,
down
I
some
think what
trees
she's
on the side.
referring to is like that one road where there was a lot of ruts in this dirt road. And the neighbors were happy with it because it maintained a good speed for when their kids are driving their bikes around, kept the cars low. Well, one homeowner way down the road decided to
Fill it
gravel
all.
from his driveway, down the road, all the way to the main road, to the town road.
at his own expense?
Now, that was a
the
major
neighbors.
We don't know,
improvement,
because we don't know who did it.
but it went beyond the maintenance. I mean, now it's a road.
It's a
and
road.
And the people aren't happy. They feel like their road was made worse. It wasn't an improvement to them.
And we
In
don't
fact,
give
it was
them any
just the
permission to
opposite.
do it.
And it was a safety concern.
Well,
But-
so, I mean, when they have an obligation to maintain the road, and that comes along with their ability
Easement.
to use the road, is there, well, I guess. you'd
Seems to me
say
they
that
should
in
have
different
had a
cases, there are
permit.
different
You have to
things
in order to
interpret the
put these
easement
things.
for that road to that particular homeowner or subdivision.
And these are all
some-
been done on an ad hoc basis, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, over hundreds of years, so it's very interesting.
While
I mean,
some may look at gravel as being an improvement, others would say, as you said, the homeowners like the road the way it
Absolutely.
was. So they should have had to come before the trustees for a permit if they wanted
Hey,
to put
keep in mind,
rocks
every
down.
road that we've gone to so far has had multiple encroachments on it. So it's almost like we expect it when we go. I think the first road we find that doesn't have an encroachment, our heads are gonna spin.
What is
But-
the pine
Interesting.
beetle situation? Because I
Well,
know that everything was
The pine
devastated
beetle
in that area.
situation was that many of the black pine trees in a certain area
Mm-hmm.
were infested and were cut down. So this area of town literally went from a forested area to a clear-cut meadow, in effect. And some of the homeowners just wanted to have a little more privacy, and they planted some native trees. And it was done pretty thoughtfully, and I think some members
White
of the town
pines.
planning, natural resources were involved and took a look, and it was done pretty thoughtfully. But there was never a trustee, application, submitted. And, you know, I just think that the trustees should be involved in overseeing their properties and holdings, and make sure something like Merchant's Path, where there's big white pine trees that are now 25 feet tall, and fence posts that are literally in the roadbed, something like that doesn't happen. So that's,
I know
that's
of the
reason. Just for
white
general
pines that
safety.
are on Swamp Road along where various different people I know live.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a very good thing that they planted the white pines because it's completely barren and it's on
But this
both
was
sides.
right against, this is right against the road, you know what I mean? So it's a little different situation than.
I know if I
So
planted
let me,
a tree outside
are
my
we
house,
also going to
highway
take on the,
department would take it down immediately.
are we going to take on the responsibility of clearing the trees that are growing naturally onto our roads?
That would be maintenance, and that would be upon the homeowner who holds
Well,
the easement.
but if we're concerned about the fire trucks,
Well, we're concerned about illegal plantings.
But there's some- but-
Or illegal fences that are put in.
okay, well,
What
I'm
would
thinking
be-
about Edwards Hole Road, okay? I've been down
Right,
there.
right.
I drove it, and there are lots there that are unoccupied.
Right,
And those trees are coming right to the edge of the road.
right.
Well, that's kind of why I say.
So
we
when-
establish a
But
policy.
that's maintenance.
So when trees were cut down on somebody's property where they naturally came to the end of the road, it was the back of other people's property. Why are they not allowed to reestablish the natural growth that was there?
Well,
But
well,
that's
A,
not
it's not on
natural
it's not on their property.
was
A.
natural
And it's not their
Hold on a
property.
second. A, it's not their property, it's public property. And,
To a point, there's an easement to a width,
right,
and then we don't know where that property line is. And so somebody's gonna have to provide a survey.
Yeah, just-
Well, if they're gonna plant, if the homeowner's planting, then why wouldn't they provide their
yeah,
survey?
they have a survey. They know exactly where their property is. So I don't
You
see it
know,
as being a big issue, really.
I just have a problem making somebody get a permit when the government came in and stripped their land of the growth that was there, and then they're left
We're
with a
not-
barren piece of property
we're
that looks
not-
like a war zone, and then we have to burden them to come in and get a
No, no, no,
permit
hold on.
and provide a survey
No,
now,
no, no, no.
because
They
it
can-
has to
Hold
be
on
on.
a
Do
second.
their
A,
plantings
if
on
it's-
their property.
If they plant
That's
on
why
their
they need to do a
property-
survey.
If they're planting on their property, we have no issue
No issue.
whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's clear that there's property stakes right alongside of their property and their planting, and someone across the street chooses to plant on the trustee property across the street from their house, run an irrigation hose across the street from their house to water these trees that are very close to the road, in that case, I think that person should come to the trustees and get a permit. Their property's across the street.
If it's on the trustee property, I agree.
Yep.
But
Yeah, that's
you
all.
have to be sure that it's on the
Yeah,
trustee
I
property.
don't think anyone in this case contested that it was on the trustee property, and we had some very friendly conversations with the
But
homeowners,
it
and
should-
everyone.
if there is a question,
no
I
big
just
deal.
think that it shouldn't burden the trustees to find that out.
Or the public
If they're
safety.
doing the planting, it should be up to the homeowners, that should be their responsibility to make sure they're planting on their property.
On their
That's
property.
all. And we don't even have to charge for the permit, it's just a matter of a basic review.
Yeah,
That
no
says,
charge for
A,
it.
you're planting on your property, or if it's on trustee property, we're not impeding the right of way of the road for
That, I
safety
think,
vehicles.
is what John is saying, policy. If we have a generic policy
Yeah.
that states that, and they come in and sign for a permit, that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, keep
But
it simple, a little sketch, a little plant
Specifics
list.
are with each case.
You don't want you don't want
Like a
invasive
zoning
species.
board or planning board.
You don't want someone putting up bamboo. You know, there's certain things that we wouldn't want to see take place.
You want indigenous
on the-
plantings, things that.
Yeah, very
right.
basic
So, I
guideline.
think maybe we need two different things, a policy that is within our, the rules and regulations about what, replanting, and then case by case, if it's an unusual lot and it had something, different type of road, that now the trustees have to get involved, it would be like going to the zoning board. And then you'd have to be case-specific about things. But I think a generic policy that
I think it's
John
pretty
is
simple.
talking
It's a
about.
pretty basic review.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the fire truck issue. It seems to have created a problem on Merchants Path if there was just a blanket policy that everybody knew when they signed off on this stuff, that they weren't gonna allow
Well, that's
their
what the
plantings to encroach.
That's the purpose of the easement.
One of
Beyond the
these
width
properties
needed.
even has a scenic easement, where it's clearly stated in their scenic easement that they're not allowed to erect any structures, remove any topsoil, any plantings, and it's
Yeah, that's the most
Alone.
egregious one, 136
Yeah.
has the scenic easement
Fencing.
along
Yeah,
the
it
entire
happens
boundary.
That's like a
Time
code
in real estate,
enforcement
when
thing,
you
That's a
right?
code
sell
enforcement
property
issue
and
too,
you
but
find
it's also
out
a
that
trustee
people have
issue.
done things that they were not
Because
permitted
that
to do.
fence is,
I know on Bull Path, the Northwest
Already.
Trails,
Yeah.
people have
This is
have
probably been
fenced
going on
off the
for
trails.
30, 40 years.
and
Nobody's been
actually
really
put
paying
signs up to
serious
say no
attention to it.
trespassing, so oftentimes at
Paying attention
closings,
No, you
or
got it
before
out
the
there,
closing,
right?
when we do the final walkthrough, we find out that homeowners have completely violated everything that's on the survey. All,
That's
they-
what we're finding out.
Yeah,
So-
it happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Why don't we
so-
bring something back to the board that's a little more thought out, and we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, the people doing the plantings, they know where they're doing the plantings. I mean, everybody has a survey for the house. It's not like,
Well, they
you
give
know,
it to the
you don't know
landscaper.
where
There
your
was no
property is.
argument about where the plantings were.
How does the
And they were very
surveyor-
nice people, and
how does the
they have the
surveyor-
best of intentions. You know, I think we just need to have a basic control, that's
Yeah.
all.
How does the surveyor come up with where the stakes go adjacent to Trustee Road if the trustees
Well, we've
don't
seen
have
it,
a-
we've seen it on,
their own
well, on Midland Highway,
whatever
on
it
Midland
is.
Highway, the stakes were clearly behind the deer fencing. The owner didn't have the presence of mind to put them.
Put them on the other.
They were on 10 feet on the wrong side of the fence, and we just looked, and then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna pull the fence out. And I'm like, I messed up. So
Would it
there's
be
been
easier
no,
to-
there's been absolutely no argument or no pushback on any of this stuff. It's pretty clear.
How long is a rod? if you don't mind?
18,
No, it's 13 and a half
was it
feet.
13 and a half feet? So they're on,
It's about as long as the belly of an ox.
Nice.
What happens when the ox splashes in water and his belly gets wet?
Not to be confused with a horse. In 2 hours, it will be a horse.
what we've seen, John, is the roads are about 50 to 60 feet. The road properties are about 50 to 60 feet wide.
And how wide generally is the road, you know, the paved or the
A bit less than
cleared
that.
road?
There's a pretty decent shoulder on most of these from what we've seen.
40 feet wide?
Some of these, they're not up
40,
to town spec,
yeah,
they're usually
okay.
a little
A
smaller.
little smaller. Well, there should be definitely be something in there that says no
16 and a half.
improvement, like no
Again, the easements,
gravel.
go to
16.6
the roads
feet.
file and read some of the easements. It'll give you a good background on the variety that we've seen over the course of development. A lot of them came through in the 70s and 80s. There are some
Yeah,
older
when they-
ones,
yeah, when
you
they-
know, so it's interesting. It's a whole history
They
lesson.
made all these developments and
Yeah, some are for development, some are for individual lots. It's a whole potpourri.
Okay.
Holy smokes.
I know, don't
I
look.
know. Okay, let's move on to administrative.
Okay.
Payment of the bills, we have Edson International, $149.50 for boat parts. North Fork Water Supply, $12. Optimum, $167.55. Seacoast Enterprises, $1,080.60, pump out boat. Star Island Yacht Club, $849.09 for the pump out. Got a
Motion to pay the bills?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes, July 23rd.
we'll table those.
Yeah,
We just got them.
Table.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
I
fine.
know I
Right, John?
have, oh, no, didn't.
Table of financial report?
Yes.
Financial reports, June 30th.
I had an opportunity to look at them. They appear to be in order. Without further discussion, I would ask that we pass them.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So we're going to table the meeting, the July 23rd meeting till the, okay.
The minutes.
We're behind.
July 31st, first financial report.
I would ask we table that so everybody has an opportunity to look at them, and we'll vote on it in 2 weeks.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll skip the report of the clerk this meeting. Correspondence, we have a letter from Lori Schultz, regarding trash cans on the beach, and she's asked that it be read into record. Dear East Hampton trustees, my name is Laurie Schultz, and I was born and raised in East Hampton. I'm writing this letter in regard to the trash problem in East Hampton, especially on the beaches. I've been cleaning up the beaches for about 7 years during the summer months when our town's population at least doubles. The beaches are littered with anything and everything you can imagine. Some of the trash makes it into the trash cans, but most of it lands on the ground outside the trash cans on the beach. This leads to the birds getting into it, and then it goes into the ocean and kills ocean life and looks disgusting. In my opinion, the trash cans do not belong on the beaches. The town beaches have moved their trash cans to the parking lots. This does cut down on some of the overflow, but at least it doesn't make it into the ocean. Now the public beaches in East Hampton Village East Hampton Village. Now the public beaches that the East Hampton Village use still have the cans on the beaches. Why? They don't get it. Maine Beach is ranked as one of the top 10 beaches in America. Maybe they didn't get to see it in the summer when the trash cans are filled with overflowing and birds have gotten it all over the beach. It's time for East Hampton Village joins the rest of us that are trying to keep our town clean and remove the trash cans from the beaches and move them into the parking lots so the beach and oceans can stay clean from litter. I hope there is some solution to this problem. We should all be working together to solve the problem instead of being pulled in different directions. Please help keep our beaches clean and beautiful. Sincerely, Laurie Schultz. And then we have the one that I read earlier from CFAR. That's it.
Right, can I have one thing before we close? I just want to say that the East Hampton Star Magazine is going to feature our T-shirt in the Labor Day issue, Darrell Godfrey, so very happy.
Nice, thank you, Darrell.
Yep.
Motion to close?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I have a cot in my car.
Time to go to work.